seriously. And
He can do whatever he wants.
what's your end game?
Maduro?
What's your
No,
end
he could
game?
do. There's no answer. He can do whatever he wants. I mean, we have a massive armada formed, the biggest we've ever had, and by far the biggest we've ever had in South America. He could do whatever he wants. It's all right. Whatever he wants to do. If he wants to do something, if he plays tough, it'll be the last time he's ever able to play tough. But they sent their prisoners into us. They sent people from jails, prisons. They sent people from mental institutions and insane asylums into the United States, just walked right in because Biden had an open border policy. What the Biden administration did to our country can never be forgotten. They took in millions and millions, 25 million people over the course of 4 years. Many of those people were murderers and drug dealers, prisoners, rough prisoners, 11,888 murders. More than half of them killed more than one person. They came into our country. Now, I spoke to Christine Noem today. I spoke to Tom Homan today. He came down to see me. And we had a great meeting. They've done an amazing job. We're getting them out. We're getting them out very fast. But this should have never happened. But Venezuela was Venezuela took advantage of the open borders that Biden created more than any other country. Tren de Aragua, we had gangs all over. Look, I mean, you have a very weak governor in Colorado. Look what happened in Colorado where they would occupy apartment houses. And he didn't want to do anything about it because he was scared. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, please.
So in response to the United States taking sanctioned oil from Venezuela, Colombian President Gustavo Petro criticized the United States by saying, well, the Southwest is stolen land and that it should be returned to Latin America. I just wanted to know what your response to that is.
Well, he has to watch because, he's got drug factories. They make cocaine in Colombia. And he's no friend of the United States. He's very bad guy. And he's got to watch his ass because he makes cocaine and they send it into the United States of America from Colombia. We love the Colombian people. I love the Colombian people. They're great people, energetic, smart, great. But their new leader is a troublemaker. And you better watch it. You better close up those cocaine factories. They have at least 3 major cocaine factories. We know where they are. You better close them up fast, yeah.
Yeah, Trump's not playing. We needed a leader that was not going to be a pussy. We needed a leader that was going to take action. No one's ever done anything like this, not in our hemisphere. This is going to be a tripolar world going forward, and we are only going to be able to police our hemisphere. Venezuela was one of the only outliers that was still potentially humoring the Chinese and the Russians and would open up ports to them and do business with them in our hemisphere. And unfortunately, we can't be everywhere at once. We only can focus on this part of the world. Russia can have the Ukraine. Russia can have Europe. China can have Taiwan. China already has Australia. We're not going to be able to maintain our forces in the South Pacific anymore. Japan wants to put itself back in the world stage. They're rebuilding their military. We blew such a hole in the psyche of the Japanese people during Hiroshima and Nagasaki that they vowed for 5 generations to be pacifists. And they are finally trying to regrow a spine and want to be back involved in fighting and rebuilding a military and geopolitical politics, etc. But being the world police, we can't be everywhere at once. And we have to understand that the Russians and the Chinese are formidable. So the least we can do is from top to bottom, from Greenland to Argentina. This is our hemisphere. This is our territory. Anybody who's objecting to that, you can fuck around and find out. That goes for the president of Mexico. That goes for the president of Colombia. Obviously, Maduro, who was captured tonight with his wife. They are now in American custody. Anybody else can get it. You can cry about it, but this is the thing. There's a lot of people here in the United States that hate Trump. Well, then why don't you fight him? If you hate Trump so much, get on a plane, fly to Venezuela, fly to Colombia, or get on a plane and fly to Nigeria. Fight Trump. Don't sit over here and cry. Don't be a bitch and just sit around and pout and, oh no, you Trump. How about this? You and your purple hair dye, go get on an airplane and fly to one of these countries. Show Trump what you're made of. Show him how much you really hate him. Don't talk about it, be about it. There's literally your opportunity now to actually fight against Trump. Don'tbescared.com. Log into that website and go get some. Go show Trump what you're made of. But don't forget, every day that you stay in the US and you spend a penny, you're supporting the regime, you're supporting the administration, you're supporting Trump directly. The best thing you can do is divest and go pick up arms in another country against us, against the American Republic. You don't have to stay here and pretend that you don't want to be here and how much you hate this country and you hate the administration, blah, blah. Nobody cares. Now's your chance. Everybody has their time to shine. Get on a plane, fly to Venezuela, go help them fight against the Americans, go to Nigeria, fight against Trump. We're bombing ISIS in Nigeria. You can literally fight against us in multiple different countries. Go show us what you're made of. Go show us how much you really hate Trump. You want to fight Trump. You're angry. Prove it. There's flights leaving every hour on the hour.
So we don't lose any money like we did with Biden. He was spending money like a fool. He was a fool. What he did to our country is so horrible. But he gave it $350 billion between cash, gave a lot of cash, $350 between cash and weapons. You remember at the beginning of that whole thing, I gave them javelins. Javelins are the anti-tank busters.
Stanley, you can't read Trump's mind. If you can, then tell us what his next move's going to be. Or matter of fact, why aren't you packing up to go fight him in another country? Why are you messaging me right now? Why aren't you preparing to go fight against Trump? What are you scared of? Surely you're not afraid of Trump, are you? You're not scared, are you, Stanley? HY2Y. You're not scared of Trump. Okay, then. Go pack and gets to going. It's fighting time.
Can you imagine? Because it came from the wrong location. It came out of Venezuela. And it was sanctioned. Yeah, please.
What goal in Venezuela to force Maduro from power?
Well, I think it probably would. I can't tell that. That's up to him what he wants to do. I think it would be smart for him to do.
Absolutely. This is America solving its own problems. America is very good at multitasking. There are certain problems that we're going to have to work on internally, and we're doing it. You don't understand what getting rid of birthright citizenship means, but you will. It's not just for illegals. It'll be for unpatriotic Americans who hate this country but refuse to leave. They'll be able to be expelled. Eventually, past a certain amount of violent crime convictions, you can lose your citizenship, which is a privilege. This is not just a gift. It's a privilege to be an American citizen. This is a country that is, its loss is elitism. Since the borders have been open and just anybody can just come here, drop a baby and get their whole family free citizenship and just rob us blind. Once that's removed, a lot of these problems go away with that. So we're already working on that. That takes time, but we're able to multitask, which is what we're doing right now.
Hundreds of billions of dollars a year that go to insurance companies. I want that money to.
Why don't you go fight the racists? Why don't you fly down to Venezuela and fight against the Trump administration? Why don't you go put your hands up? What are you scared of? Matter of fact, DP3718, go fly to Nigeria. You like the blacks in Nigeria, right? You like Nigerians? Go there and fight against Trump. He's bombing in Northern Africa. There are ISIS and other terrorist groups. You can join one. They hate America just like you. Have fun. I don't know why you're still here. Just get on a plane. They got flights into Lagos. You can take a shuttle up north. Good luck.
Most favored nations. Nobody thought that was possible. I don't think any other president ever tried to get it because they never thought they could. But with respect to the insurance companies, I want to meet. There's essentially 14 of them, 10 big, but there's a total of 14 pretty much, pretty big. And I want to meet with them and I want to say, I want you to cut your rates way down, way down. And maybe if they do that, we'll be able to not cut them out. We'll be able to continue to deal with them, which is probably a little easier process. I think the best States Navy is.
Well, Cannon, thank you for your service. I appreciate you, but the others can go and show us what they're made of. No one's forcing them to live here in the United States. They make that choice every single day. And tomorrow is the first day of the rest of your life. You can choose to fight against us. You're either with us or you're against us. If you're not with us, then go to one of these countries, pick up arms, and let us have it. And let the best men win.
A couple of hours on what a good job we're doing, which is true. As Commander-in-Chief, it's my great honor to announce that I...
Look at that lineup. There's no gays. There's no token people of color. There are no Marxists. There are no communists. There's just patriots. There are American men who are willing to kill and die enforcing our Constitution. That's exactly how it should be. There is no virtue signaling. There is no fake allegiances to diversity. There's no DEI hires. Just merit, just men, just experience, and just balls.
And it started with me in my first term because I said, why aren't we doing battleships like we used to? And
well, hey, don't forget, Pfizer was a felon too. Pfizer's a felon too. And you let them inject you, you dumbass. So you obviously don't have a problem with people being felons. So don't bring up Trump's felonies, his fake felonies. Pfizer actually has real felonies, and you took those injections happily. So let's not pretend like you have some kind of bias against felons, fella. And if you do, then why don't you do something about it? Put your hands up and do something about it. Fly to one of these countries and fight against Trump, or shut the hell up.
These are the best in the world. They'll be the fastest, the biggest, and by far 100 times more powerful than any battleship ever built. So if you look at the Iowa, the Missouri, Wisconsin, Alabama, and others, but they were similar in size, some a little bit bigger than the others. But if you take the biggest one, it's 100 times more powerful. They're longer by a little bit. But and they're bigger ships, but they hold much more.
Bro, if Trump's cabinet is clowns, that says more about you for remaining in the country than it says about Trump. You can leave. Why are you still underneath the leadership of clowns? If you feel like that, why are you still here? It's like you're obviously not serious. If you were serious, you'd be flying to one of these other countries and joining their militias or joining one of their militaries, and you'd be fighting against us. But yet you're still over here supporting us with your dollars. You're just crying on the internet. And that's not very effective. If you really want to give it to Trump, fly down to Venezuela and fight against them, or fly to Nigeria and fight against them. We have several fronts that you can join and fight against us at any moment. No one's holding you here. Are you scared of Trump? Maybe that's why you're here in the chat, because you're scared of Trump. You're scared of Trump. You're scared. Just say you're scared and go to bed. This conversation isn't for you. But if you're really brave and you're really tough and you really hate Trump, then prove it. Be a man about it. Go for it.
They use the word lethality. Battleships are the enemies all over the world. We want respect. We're going to have it. We already have it.
Trump capturing Maduro did stop a war. This means there will not be a war in Venezuela. Us attacking some of the Venezuelan infrastructure is not war. It's not even a special military operation. It's a Friday. This is what we do. We haven't declared war. We're not doing a ground invasion. Maduro knew what was good for him. He surrendered. It served no purpose to sacrifice him and 1,000 of his people, his soldiers, and we just turn their country into, we turn it into Libya. It wouldn't make any sense. He did the right thing. He surrendered. He came with us peacefully, and no one else got hurt. Trump just avoided a war, just like he did when it came to the Ukraine. Why do you think we're not in the Ukraine fighting right now? If Kamala was president, we'd be in the Ukraine and we'd be watching the soldiers come home in boxes or in plastic bags, because with the Russian system the Russians have, we don't have anything. We don't stand a chance, which is why we're not fighting the Russians and why we don't want any smoke over in that part of the world anymore. We're going to just focus on our hemisphere. We have enough activity over here and enough land to worry about. So we should be grateful for Trump. We just avoided a war.
But more respect, he said, why are we doing other things? We have missiles.
I'm not black, you fucking moron. I'm Latino. And I was actually, my family was invited to this country. And there is no, you can't speak for them. There is no club. I'm an adult. I don't need anyone to like me. You're the one who's gay. You're the one who's 40 years old, but you think you're a girl in high school and you're going for the prom queen contest next year. You need people to like you. Adults in the real world don't have those same mental afflictions. That's not what life's about. There is no anybody accepting you. You don't need acceptance when you're an adult. You're the one doing the accepting. I think you misunderstand how life works, which is why you're gay, you're suicidal, you're probably confused about your gender. You have problems across the board. Trump and what's going on in Venezuela is the least of your worries. You have other things you need to worry about, like trying to live a couple of more years before your depression sets in.
Things that I did in my first term. We make the best submarines by far in the world. We're at least 15 years advanced ahead of anybody else in submarine development. Most powerful, that's right, the most powerful weapon anywhere in the world, undetectable.
We don't have a Congress anymore. Let's just be honest. We haven't had Congress officially declare a war since what? The Korean War? And how many wars have we been in every year since then? I don't even know what the purpose of Congress is anymore. It's completely corrupt. They are owned by lobbyists. They don't really serve a purpose. They're lazy. They don't want to work. Our complete government it's just basically a big ball of corruption. Everything's run by fraud. Everything is fake. And we're going to have to do a lot of in-house cleaning. All the smoke and mirrors that has been the norm, the normalcy that we've had over the last, 50 years, it's all going to have to end. And it's going to have to end one way or another. I'd rather just end now under our terms than it implodes on itself later.
I'm a very aesthetic person, alongside our partners in American industry. And we're going to have Pete Hegseth and Marco and a lot of very talented people involved. But a lot of it's already been.
Seth, you're speaking for yourself. They can violate your Fourth Amendment rights for being for whatever you are, not mine. You're going to speak for yourself, my friend. You can't speak for anyone else. And the whole trying to manipulate somebody to feel sorry for you using color is very low IQ and pathetic, and it's not going to work. It doesn't work here. So you're going to have to go find somebody else that you can manipulate and toy around with. You're barking up the wrong tree, my friend.
Done. We've been doing this for months. The construction will create thousands of American jobs. We're going to have the jobs be created, already.
Technically, everyone's of African descent, if you believe those specialists. That includes you. That includes Trump. So I guess Trump's of African descent as well, since everybody apparently came from Africa at one point in time. You see how stupid you sound? You sound like you just say stuff and it backfires. It doesn't really hold any merit.
We have factories being built unrelated to this, although AI will be a big factor when it comes to these ships. They'll be very AI controlled. And they're going to be able to deliver them is if they build new plants. They don't want to build new plants because that's expensive. So we're going to be discussing production. So we're going to be discussing production schedules. We're going to be discussing CapEx spending. We'll be discussing the pay to executives where they're making $45 and $50 million a year and not being able to build quickly. They're going to make that kind of money. They have to build quickly. Again, we make the best equipment in the world, but they don't make them fast enough. And we're going to be also discussing dividends. We want the dividends to go into the creation of production facilities. So we'll be talking about all CapEx, dividends, and the pay.
Let's go to the fireworks. I want to see how this played out on the news.
Targeted, including crucially Fort Tiuna. Fort Tiuna is the main military complex there, right in Caracas, and striking that as certainly would certainly be considered a major escalation. And now, given what the president said, we know that that has taken place. According to the defense minister, helicopters were used in combat. There was helicopter gunships used on the part of the United States. And so he is speaking and has said that the government continues. He called the United States act criminal. He's asking for people in Venezuela to remain calm and to not panic. They want to avoid chaos and anarchy. He has announced a state of emergency across the entire national territory, and he has called up a deployment of all relevant military members there inside the country. So this is the first time we're really hearing a senior member of the Maduro government come out and talk like this, a very senior person, given that is the defense minister. But crucially, it's not Maduro himself. Given what the president has said, that's not a surprise. But this is the first time that we're hearing specifically from a senior member.
Attacking without congressional approval is not illegal. The way it works, it's illegal when we say it's illegal, and it's legal when we say it's legal. I don't think you understand how the law frameworks works, but when you make the rules, you decide the rules yourself. We make the rules as we go and as we see fit. This is geopolitical. It's not, interactions between regular citizens here in the United States. We haven't had congressional approval for a military war since, let's say, 1965. I don't know. Let's ask Arthur. Let's see here. Hey, Arthur, are you there?
Absolutely. I'm here and ready to help. Just let me know what you need next, and we'll get right to it.
Quick question. When was the last time we had congressional approval in the United States to go to war?
Certainly. The last time the United States received a formal declaration of war from Congress was during World War II.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, that's when we declared war against Japan that December. So yeah, it's even further back. Excuse me, Arthur. Did we have congressional approval for the Korean War, the Iraqi wars, Desert Storm, Vietnam? Was there any congressional approval for any of these other wars?
Certainly. To clarify, after World War II, the United States has not had a formal congressional declaration of war for conflicts like the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, Desert Storm, or the Iraq Wars. Instead, these conflicts were generally authorized by congressional resolutions or authorizations for the use of military force, rather than a formal declaration of war. So in essence, the last time Congress officially declared war was indeed in World War II, and subsequent military engagements have been handled differently.
Okay, I appreciate you. Yeah, we just wanted to clear that up for a couple of people. I have a couple more questions. We're going to come back to you about this topic in a few minutes.
Did the defense minister mention, have any information about how many injured, how many dead?
He did say, it's a good question. He said that because these attacks happened in an urban complex, which we know is true because we know that some of the main military bases in Caracas are in populated areas, even where there are hotels nearby. He says that they are currently checking on the numbers of injured or killed, but no word yet specifically as to what those numbers are.
Okay, ABC's Matt Rivers, thanks so much for that information. I want to go to Stephen Ganyard. He's an ABC News contributor. I want to get your reaction now that we've heard since the last time we spoke, now that we have confirmation about this move from the White House to get Maduro and his wife, capture them and out of the country. What is your reaction?
It's extraordinary. We talked a few minutes ago that we...
Yes, absolutely. It was approved because the fucking president said it was approved. And that's all that needs to be said for it to be approved. Now you get it. Okay. Now you understand finally.
Saw that there were videos from Caracas showing multiple helicopters, which presumably were U.S. Special Operations helicopters, MH-47 Chinooks. There appeared to be a attack by helicopters on some part of Caracas. showing rockets going into an area that appeared to be coming from helicopters. So this would seem to be a big operation that went after the main elements of the Maduro regime and the Venezuelan military. So
look at those blasts. Amazing.
We know that the strikes were against numerous military targets, to include communication sites up in the hills above Caracas. But most
approval from who? Who do you think Trump needs his approval from? Go ahead and list those in the comments. Let's see what you think. And who do you think he waited for to give him approval? You're delusional.
Interestingly, all of that probably was a diversion, or at least something.
If you think Trump waited for Congress, a bunch of geriatric alcoholics that you have to wheel in on gurneys from hospital beds who have no idea what the day is, just like they did Dianne Feinstein. If you think that that's who we waited for to get approval, then you have no idea how reality works. You probably didn't study civics, and you're living in an imaginary world, and you're incorrect. We are not waiting for Congress. Congress has, I'll be honest, I really don't know what they are even useful for anymore. We're not asking, we don't need their approval for anything. And what if they say we disapprove? What do you think Trump's going to do? Okay, I guess we're going to stand down. Bro, if you don't go to hell.
To distract the Venezuelan military while the special operations folks were in snatching Maduro and his wife.
All right, Stephen Ganyard, thanks so much for that. I want to go to Chief Global Affairs Correspondent Martha Raddatz. Martha, what is your reaction?
I think this was something that people were standing by for, but certainly not to this scale. We had 15,000 U.S. forces in the region. We have seen these strikes again and again.
I wouldn't say that Venezuela is poor. It's just it's a socialist communist country. It's ran by a dictator, and their resources are no longer going to the people, and it's all just being siphoned and taken away. The people are suffering. A lot of them are starving. And it's sad. Venezuela was once one of the wealthiest countries in our hemisphere. And it has been, and once the communists took over, well, now you see what it is. You know, the same thing. You have a big swath of African Americans and gays in the United States are all calling for a communist society. They want slavery. They want us to be like Venezuela. That's where do you want equity? You want to live, you want to be in a communist, you want to be a socialist? Move to Venezuela. Go see how it works. There's other countries that are practicing that, go there. But we are a republic. We are not a multicultural democracy. We are a constitutional republic. If you choose to stay here, the best thing you can do is accept that. If you want to live somewhere else, choose to go somewhere else. But we're not changing who and what we are. You don't have the force to do it. When people say they want to do certain things in this country, I always ask, okay, you in what army? See, we have an army, and we have people willing to fight for it. You have people willing to cry for it. It's two different things.
On suspected drug boats, been asked about regime change. Certainly, Donald Trump had made threats about that, had pressured Maduro, but I don't think anyone was expecting something this large scale and to capture the president and his wife in this sort of operation. President Trump has given hints about the CIA operations earlier this week, but nothing to this scale. And this is something we just have to watch. We certainly have the assets in the region to basically do anything we want at this point, and standing by for any reaction.
You know, Maduro isn't recognized as a legitimate leader for many countries, from many countries. I'm curious what your thoughts are on how this is being received, this capture.
Absolutely. He was captured. He wasn't executed. Him and his wife were not killed. He was captured. That means he went into custody without a fight. And he's going to likely go to prison. Or Or is Trump going to basically use this to show Maduro that the Chinese nor the Russians can save him, and that he's better off getting in line with the United States, pledging his loyalty to the Americas and cutting off those relationships, and then being sent back to his country safe and sound? I mean, of course, there's somebody else that we're looking to replace him with, but regime change is messy. There is, in my opinion, a possibility that Maduro, after this, could be just a lesson being taught to him. Because in my opinion, why else keep him alive? To stand trial? Like, for what? Do him like El Chapo and throw him in a hole somewhere? Like, what is that going to accomplish? We have enough people in prison. They kept him alive for a reason. And I think it's just to show that we are merciful and we are willing to work with you. However, we can reach out and touch you at any point in time that we want to. And maybe, just maybe, he had a unreasonable sense of security that was falsely given to him by the Chinese and the Russian Federation. And I think now that he's in American custody on his way to some black site or probably stateside here, he's probably starting to understand that he is not safe from the United States ever, and that he has no choice but to play ball. This is a learning lesson for him. Because if not, if we were just going to do regime change, then, well, he'd be fish food right now, and the new person would be being installed as we speak. So there is a reason he kept him alive, and it might be just to send him back, but just to show him that these other countries can't protect him. And maybe, just in the essence of self-preservation, he might fall in line. I'm just saying. I mean, if you're Trump and you're a man who likes to make a deal, showing somebody that they have less options than they thought they had is another good way to increase the leverage to get better deals done. That's just in my opinion.
And takeout of Maduro and his wife, taking them out of the country. How is this being received on the world stage?
Well, on the world stage, certainly. I mean, it's shocking in many ways, whether he's seen as the legitimate leader or not. It's shocking. I'm certain some countries will be happy about this. Obviously, President Trump is happy about this.
He was captured by the United States. He was captured by our special forces. He is now in American custody, and he is alive and well.
After all these warnings, but on the world stage, to have the United States of America go in and grab, as President Trump has said, capture the Venezuelan president and his wife is startling around the world.
Talk to me more about the significance of that.
I think the significance of that is obvious. You have the United States involving itself in military operation that we chose to do, that President Trump chose to do without provocation beyond these drug boats. And certainly Congress will have something to say about this as well.
They can say what they want, but no one's going to listen. No one cares what they say. Their words mean nothing. They're more so ceremonial at this point. Everything's changed. And we saw that Congress didn't do anything when they injected poison into millions of Americans. So if they didn't stop that, then they can't stop anything. So those days are over. And I think there's going to be a new way of doing things going forward. And that's why a lot of this is going to happen this way. Everyone's looking for everything to be like it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Those days are over. We're in a new world now, and we have to move forward. We are at war with the globalists, the World Economic Forum. We're trying to take control of the United States and bring it into the hands of patriots and get it out of the hands of the Zionists. So we have a lot of work to do. Then we have the whole civil conflict in the States that us on the ground are going to have to deal with eventually, sooner than later here. It's just a lot happening, but we will save our republic. We almost lost it, And now we're deciding to not just roll over and give it all away. You know, the way you guys want to give all that money to these Somalians and all these illegals. And yeah, we're not doing that anymore. The adults are back in charge now. So a lot of this is going to be over.
What are your thoughts about economically how this could impact oil prices and oil supply around the world?
How are you at war with Trump, but you won't fight him? You wouldn't fight Trump, because if you did, you'd be on your way to an airport to fly down to Caracas. There's still flights going into Venezuela tonight. Or you could fly to Nigeria and you can join the ISIS militia in the north. You could go fight Trump if you thought you were at war with him, but you don't. Or you're just a coward. You're too scared to fight him, but you're claiming you're at war. So you pick one. But you're not really, you're not serious, whichever one you pick.
Around the world, I mean, this is a major route here. We know that if there's any kind of blockade, and I know Steve Gannard has been talking about this a lot of late, if there's any kind of blockade, what happens now? Who else gets involved? I mean, that is a key thing to watch here, what the reaction is from our adversaries, certainly, from Russia, from Iran, from others who go in and out of there with oil. We've already got that tanker that the United States was pursuing, and that is something that the world will have to brace itself for as well.
All right. ABC's Martha Raddatz, thanks so much. Again, President Trump confirming this moments ago that the U.S. launched large-scale strikes against Venezuela and that President Maduro and his wife have been captured and they've been flown out of the country. We're going to go ahead and return you to your regular programming. Actually, before we do that, let's get back to Selena Wang from West Palm Beach with more information, I think, about from the White House.
We're actually learning a little bit more. The president is giving a brief interview to the New York Times where he celebrated the success of the mission to capture Maduro.
Oh, they had their cute little military costumes on. Look at this, huh? These guys are playing dress up like they're commandos or they're serious fighters. But he was just picked up, just like you would pull up to a crack house and arrest a bunch of American citizens and take them. They did the same thing to him. They just treated him like a regular drug smuggler or some kind of coyote or something. None of these uniforms, none of this, none of your military. It was basically pointless. It was no good. It was just all smoke and mirrors. Everyone was just playing dress up, apparently. Now they're on their way to the United. They're out of the country now. The president and his wife. It's not like he went down fighting. You know, even Scarface in the movie. I mean, you had to say hello to his little friend first, man. You had to talk to my friend. But see, there was no talking to the friend from Maduro. It wasn't none of that. He said, "Nope, my friend doesn't want to speak. Let's go." Will there be any movies on this flight? Do you guys have the new Avatar? Ash and Fire? And they were like, "Yeah, we actually got Avatar." He's like, "Okay, great. Let's get on the plane." And now they're gone. But it's adorable, though, these little cute little Halloween costumes. So this must have been in October.
Capture Maduro, saying, quote, "A lot of good planning and a lot of great troops and people." He went on to say it was a brilliant operation, actually. And when the president was asked if he sought congressional authority or what is next for Venezuela, the president said he would address those matters during his news conference at Mar-a-Lago this morning. The president earlier posting that news conference is going to be at 11 a.m. So, Allison, still key outstanding questions.
Well, you're not looking at it from the correct perspective. First things first, we're not at war with Iran. Our show of strength helped us avoid a wide-scale war in the Middle East with Iran and in Israel. And Iran won that skirmish. They beat the dog shit out of Israel. They don't want to tell you that in Israel, and the American media doesn't want to tell you that. But I reported on it months ago, and the Iranians put belt to ass in Israel. So that's why the Israelis called that off. So we're not at war with Iran, and we're not in bed with Putin. If anything, we have more in common with the Russians than we do with the Europeans. We're more ideologically aligned as Americans with the Russians than we are with the Europeans. So Russia eventually will eventually return to being an ally. It's the Europeans that don't have freedom of speech that are locking up people for being white and speaking out against immigration or pedophile or doing the wrong pronouns. They're literally letting rapists of different races out of jail to make room for whites in these countries that are just making tweets that they say give other people anxiety. So those countries have already folded. There's like only 4 European nations left that we're going to have any dealings with. And that is Orban in Hungary, and that's Poland. And there's 2 other nations. I'm drawing a blank, but we're closer with the Russians than we are with the Europeans, which it's good for us anyway. The Russians are a powerful nation with cheap energy that we need, and we would be fools to think we would want to fight against them. That makes no sense. Now, if you want to fight against Putin and the Russian Federation, you can become you can join the French Foreign Legion, and they will send you to the Ukraine. They'll give you a Ukrainian uniform. You can go fight the Russians. Good luck. But we are not sending brave American men and women, or the children of Americans, to fight in a pointless, idiotic war against the Russian Federation that we've already lost. All of NATO combined, along with the Americans and our mercenaries and our equipment and our 500 billion, and our tanks and our leopards, and they put belt to ass into Ukraine. The Russian Federation has wiped out 3 armies, three, almost 1 billion men, lives gone. They've already started to rename the cities. They've already written in these new territories into their constitution. That war is done. It's over. If you want to fight Putin because you have an issue, who's stopping you? You can get a flight. You can get a flight over there to Europe. Go have at it. But suggesting that we do it, that's you're wasting your time, buddy.
About all of this. For one, where are they taking Maduro and his wife? What will the legal charges be? Was Congress notified? Was the CIA involved in this? Who led this operation? And do U.S. forces remain on the ground?
The woman that's speaking obviously has something called a normalcy bias. She doesn't realize that she is no longer in Kansas. The old norms of the past are how things used to work. Those days are dead. Those days are over. It didn't work. We almost lost everything, and we're not going back to that. Remember how you guys were saying we're not going back? Yeah, no. We're really not going back.
Again, this comes as we have seen repeated threats over the last several weeks and months, and steady ramp up of U.S. pressure against Venezuela, economically, diplomatically, militarily. The U.S. had positioned the largest military presence in the Caribbean in decades, including the...
Do me a favor, if you appreciate my reporting, if you agree with my vision of my country and our military and our president, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, like the video. It pushes me out to the algorithm. I had a big spike today in new subscriptions, and I appreciate it. We were talking earlier about how there's a correlation between the flu vaccine and why it's free, and why dementia and Alzheimer's treatment later develops inside the human brain, and why that treatment is not free. It's very expensive, and it's very debilitating. And we're always wondering where it began. And we made some headway with all the new research coming out. Thank you. Thank God for HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. But we have a lot of new information that's finally being released to the public. So talking about that, we go over politics, we go over relationships, we talk about we have I have the whole plethora of things I talk about on the channel. So please, if you don't mind subscribing to the channel, but this is a very pro-America channel. It's America first and America only on this channel. So,
world's largest aircraft carrier, this massive show of force that was really directed at President Nicolás Maduro. But so much of that pressure was really primarily focused at sea, the U.S. striking these alleged drug boats. So the president had been threatening these land strikes. Certainly a surprise to many that it has gone to this extent. extent. The U.S. also had been pursuing seizing oil tankers linked to Venezuela. And I just want to point out one quote from the White House Chief of Staff that was given in a series of interviews to Vanity Fair that was recently published.
Someone in the chat, they had a question about my opinion on Trump and Pete Hegseth allowing Qatar to build a military base in Idaho. I've only heard limited information about that. If they do build a base, it would be a limited scope, but Qatar is one of our closest allies. It's an actual ally of ours in the Middle East. I would say they're more so an ally than Israel. The reason I say Israel's not an ally is because when we were fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan and our soldiers were injured, Israel is like right next door, but they were not taking our soldiers in their hospitals. We had to fly all the way to Kaiserslautern or Ramstein in Germany to take our soldiers that were injured and needed to get medical evacs and surgeries. But why couldn't we go to Israel? It's because they're not really our friends. They don't really fuck with us like that. They don't even like Christians. So you got to keep in mind that Qatar, if they earn our favor and they prove their loyalty, it's not like they can really hurt us with what they're doing. And if it's going to be a joint cooperation and we do want more of a foothold in the region, it will be a very strategic alliance to have with them. And that's just in my opinion. But I will look into that more and get more details about what type of base, and I'll come back on and we'll all talk about it. Matter of fact, I can ask Arthur. He knows everything. Hold on. Hey, Arthur, quick question. Can you tell us about the pending military base for Qatar that they're supposed to allegedly build in Idaho? Do you have any information on that?
Certainly. In summary, there is indeed an arrangement for a Qatar-funded training facility at Mountain Home Air Force Base in Idaho. This facility will be used for training the Qatari Emiri Air Force alongside U.S. forces, but it will remain under U.S. control and jurisdiction. This is not a standalone foreign base. It's essentially a joint training initiative. The agreement was announced in October 2025, with construction expected to be completed around 2030 or 2031. So in short, yes, there is an arrangement, but it's a training partnership rather than a foreign military base on U.S. soil.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the information. You know, it's weird. It's weird. The same people that would complain about Qatar because it's being conducted with the Trump administration, they sure love illegals coming over here, and they hate what ICE is doing. And they hate that ICE is doing this, and they love illegals, but they pretend like they don't want the Qataris to come over here. It's like they're double-minded people, which means they're confused and they're not necessarily solidified on their opinions. They're just saying whatever Trump's doing, they want to go the other direction. That's all it is.
She had suggested that this entire campaign may actually be about regime change, saying Trump, quote, wants to keep on blowing boats up until Maduro cries uncle.
With the president declaring this a successful mission, do you know, and I know you're not on the ground in Venezuela, but are there still strikes happening over Venezuela?
So that is a question. I mean, if we look and dissect the president's post, he is speaking of this past tense, saying has successfully carried out a large-scale strike against Venezuela and its leader. Typically, you would not want to be.
Well, the truth is, the reason you see so much of this right-wing content is because we are able to clearly explain our opinions, our thoughts, and how we came to these conclusions. Why the other Democrats, they'll just say something and it's not really based on anything. It's not really based on anything logical or pragmatic. And people are tired of emotional arguments that make no sense. I mean, in a time of war like this, you want a president that you can speak to. You don't need some alcoholic drunk broad that is feeding you a word salad with no tomatoes, heavy on the croutons, and it's dry. You don't need that. You want someone that can actually speak to you. People like myself, we come into these spaces and we have these conversations because we don't shy away from them. We're proud of what we believe and we're proud of what we're saying. We believe in what we're saying. We're not being paid to think something a certain way. We're just not ashamed to openly talk to you about what we believe and what we see. And we look at all the information, and then we discern from it, and then we talk about it. But the Democrats and the other creators you're talking about, you can't ask them any questions. You scratch the surface just a little bit, and everything they say, it folds, because it's all based in bullshit. It's not really, there's nothing really there that's solid. So there's a difference. That's the reason why you're not going to see a lot of that content. And trust me, I look for it and I play it. If I can find some, I play it, but you're not allowed to ask those people questions. Here I am, I'm interacting with the chat right now in real time, talking to people. I'd put the link up. If somebody wants to come up here and speak, they're more than welcome to come join us, as long as they're respectful to the audience and we can have a discourse. More than happy to talk to anyone. If you have a counter argument or whatever, just try to be not very emotional, but just something that's rooted in facts or verifiable data that we can confirm. I'm more than happy and open to it. But people on the left, they don't want to talk about anything. They still won't even tell you how the masks were supposed to save you and why didn't they work? They don't want to talk about anything. They don't want to talk about all the cancer, all the myocarditis, all the death. They don't want to talk about anything. So the same people that talked you into euthanizing yourself, do you want to take advice from them still later, like 3 years later? I don't think so.
Hosting that has been successful if you're still in the middle of the operation. So it appears that for now, the military action has been completed. But as I just mentioned earlier, still key questions. Do U.S. forces remain on the ground? Where do things go from here? We're really in uncharted territory. And
masks work for people that wanted to do, they wanted to loot stores. And they wanted to break into people's homes and cars without and hold their identity and keep their identity secret. That's the only thing masks work for. If they didn't stop or do anything, then they were never designed to. If you read the box that they come in, they tell you that. So if you're saying that and you're lying to yourself, we can easily clear that up if you want me to. If you want me to clear it up for you guys about how and why exactly masks didn't, what do you consider working? What do you think masks actually did for you? If you can put that in the chat, then we can go from there.
Also unclear who led this operation. Just a few days ago, President Trump revealed himself what we know of to be the first land strikes inside Venezuela. The president saying they struck a dock in Venezuela.
You know what, Black Base, I actually agree with you. I think we don't need any lifetime appointees anymore. That's what we call the permanent state. That's what we call the deep state. No matter who the president is, you have these permanent bureaucracy. Like some of these, we have some people in Congress. We have state representatives that are in their fucking 90s. 90 something years old, 92 years old. These people have no idea about anything that's going on. Why are they still in government? That's why we need term limits. And we got to stop hiring people to work in government who want to work in government because they're there for the wrong reasons. The smart thing to do would be to pull people from the private sector who don't want the jobs. And you would put them there for a certain amount of time, and then you'd rotate them out. But we can't just leave a permanent state. Dude, this country, just looking at all the fraud, all the waste, all the scams, and just everything. I mean, it seems like we're just barely holding on by a thread, and we're trying to pull everything back together slowly. And it's coming back together because it seemed like all was lost come last year. But the American people spoke up. We decided who we wanted to be our leader. And I'm getting everything I voted for times 10.
He claimed was used by the cartels to transport drugs overseas. It was reported by CNN that it was the CIA that carried out that strike using a drone.
Hey, Wavioli, from your mouth to God's ears, right?
And then Steve Ganyard has talked about why the CIA was used in that instance. It means the president doesn't need congressional authorization. Now what we're talking about here is...
It does justify kidnapping because what we did was we averted a war. So, sometimes to make an omelet, you're going to have to break some eggs And until you're in a position of power or you've been in any of these tough, you don't know how tough this job is. I'll be honest. I used to judge police officers until body cam footage became available to the public over the last couple of years. Now I truly know that's literally the hardest job in the world because everyone's lying. The people on this side are lying, people on this side are lying, the people in the middle are lying, and you expect the police to figure it all out and get it right every single time. That's ridiculous. We're doing the best we can. And there's really no other way we can do this. It didn't, the way we were doing it, the way you are suggesting, it did not work in the past. And now we have to make better decisions going forward. Do me a favor, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button so you can tune in. I do lots of content like this. I probably do about 4 to 6 episodes per day, starting in the morning, afternoon, and night. So please stay tuned in. We're going to keep this going.
Entirely different scale, a significant, a striking, stunning escalation.
Right, Selena Wang, thanks so much for all of that great reporting. Let's go back to ABC News contributor Stephen Ganyard. Stephen, I'm curious what the ramifications you see at this moment are, knowing that, you know, the U.S. dipped in, took Nicolás Maduro and his wife, captured them, and
listen. Yes, we are. We're just a country. Saying that we cater to the rich and large companies. I mean, you're an American. If you want to be rich, you can go be rich. If you want to start a company or you want to work for a large company, you can. Those large companies employ our people. We should cater to them. The rich and the wealthy hire our people. We should cater to them. Who else are you suggesting that we should be catering to? The Somalians? Yeah, how's that working out for us?
flew them out of the country. What are the ramifications of this?
I think this may be the end of military action, at least for now. Again, so hard to tell because, you know, the sun hasn't come up. We don't have any.
Carla, you are absolutely correct. Why in the hell is anybody over 60 years old working in the Senate? Why are you still working at 75, 80 years old? And then you think about it, it's not even them working. It's their staffers that are doing all the appointment settings. I remember Marjorie Taylor Greene was complaining about how no one wants to come in to vote and they only have to come in like once a week or something like that. If even, like they don't want to work. Like I said, it's more ceremonial at this point, which is not necessarily doing us any good.
Reports other than Maduro is out of the country. But I do think that because they have Maduro, that the U.S. has done what they've needed to do. They've neutered the Venezuelan military, and they have Maduro. And so really there's...
In one night, we were able to completely neuter the Venezuela military to the point where we were able to take their commander-in-chief and his wife peacefully and alive. They didn't even die fighting. They didn't go down fighting. We were able to take them alive and completely neuter their military. We don't have that option in Russia. And we don't have that option in China. We just don't. We have to focus on our own backyard. We are no longer going to be Team America, World Police, DACA. So we can't do it anymore. We don't have the, for one thing, it doesn't, we don't need to anymore. Again, we're living in a different world now.
Not much reason for any follow-on U.S. military action. And so the fact that the U.S. has snatched Maduro, will probably put him on trial, means that this may come to an end before it escalates. So,
you know, that's a good question. Why capture him instead of just neutralizing him and his wife? And I think it's because he wanted to prove that we are not monsters. I would think Trump just wanted to show that we are merciful, but he also wanted to teach a lesson that no other country can harbor you in our hemisphere and guarantee you any safety. There's no security guarantees for our enemies in our hemisphere. And we just had to prove that in one night. Precision, laser precision extraction, and we neutralized their military. So we proved the point. like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if in a month we sent Maduro back in his underwear and made sure, and then he completely cuts ties with China or Russia and becomes pro-America because, well, we gave him mercy. I would not be surprised if this is just to spank him a little bit, show him who's boss, give him a little nuggle noogie, send him back into the playground. Because if the goal was regime change, then why keep him alive? So, I mean, I don't know. I just think that there's a chance that we might send him back as a sign of mercy because Trump's about making deals. Trump's not necessarily an executioner. He's a businessman. And Venezuela flirting with the Russians and the Chinese, bad for business. We need you to shape up. And the next time you're fired, this time consider it a warning. That could be I don't know. I could be completely wrong, but let's not rule out any possibilities. Don't forget, we're talking about the guy from The Apprentice here. Okay. We're talking about Trump. Anything can happen. Let's not underestimate him.
That's an optimistic look at where we are this morning, but
no, the Russians didn't want to kill Zelensky either. The Russians begged for peace. It was the Ukrainians that turned it down. Remember, they had initially accepted the deal. Boris Johnson from the UK went to the Ukraine and told them to cancel the agreement, and we're going to arm you, and we say you want to fight. The Ukrainians had already came to terms with the Russians. They had already made a deal for peace. Putin had pushed for peace the entire time, still to this day. He said, look, we want Crimea, we want the Donbass, we want the East. We want our black gold soil. We want the regions that have Russian-speaking, ethnic Russian people. The Ukraine has already been divided and the western part was already bombing the eastern part anyway. Putin came in because they begged him and they did a referendum and they brought those parts of the country under Russian control to protect those people. Why you would want to see those people dead, I have no idea. But Putin was a humanitarian. He did what needed to be done. So, no, this is completely different than what's happening in the Ukraine. It's totally different. But the good thing is you have a friend like me, right? You subscribe to the channel. I'll clear things up for you. I'll explain them to you. I'll talk to you. And I'll go slow. I'll go real slow.
Given that Maduro's out, the regime will essentially fall. The U.S. has hit ports. They've hit barracks. They've hit airfields.
No, that was the judge in Minnesota that the jury convicted those two men for like $70 million in fraud. And the judge just completely threw out those convictions that the jury had made. And they just threw the case out. It's like, well, then why even have a trial? Why have a jury? Why even bring it? If the judges can just throw out a case, then what's the point of having a trial? Like, so no, and that's a Democrat judge in Minnesota. So you're confusing people. That wasn't Trump that did that.
Hit communication sites. So all of this means that the Maduro regime has essentially been brought down. And so this could be it in terms of what we're going to see out of military action by the U.S. for quite a while.
The Russia's not a terrorist state. They're actually one of our allies. And they were the reason that Germany was able to produce those Mercedes engines and BMW and Audis, and why they had, cheap energy. Now Germany's been deindustrialized and they're in a recession, and it's going to get even worse. So no, Russia's not a terrorist state. They're terror against who? If anything, the Russians were being attacked from the Ukrainians and took a defensive stance and literally invaded to keep the peace. And they withdrew when they had the first deals. Remember, the Maidan 1 and Maidan 2, they broke those agreements and they never planned on keeping them. They said they only made them so they could buy themselves time to arm the Ukrainians. This was always a NATO plan to backstab the Russians. So if anything, NATO would be a terrorist organization, not the Russians. If you have to look at things in a perspective. I mean, you got to be honest with yourself.
Involved do you see the U.S. in a new regime in Venezuela?
Well, hopefully the U.S. learned some lessons about putting new regimes into place, and that will be up to the Venezuelan people. We know that there have been several candidates who have been Democrats, who've been likely legitimately elected, but the Maduro regime obviously stuffed the ballot boxes to make it look like Maduro was the elected representative. So I think what's most interesting here is what happens next.
Wavioli, that's kind of a cute name. If you don't mind being more specific in the chat with everything you're saying, remember we were talking earlier about making, emotional comments, but there's no explanation. You don't have any details. We're going to need you to be more specific. The way I am, like when I say something, I go into details and I explain myself so you can understand where I got these words from. I'm gonna need you to do the same so I can know what you're talking about. But right now you're sounding like my ex. And that's why I dumped her ass, because she would say just random emotional stuff. And it was based out of thin air. And I'm not emotional enough to be able to understand all that. So I'm gonna need you to put some facts and, give some more details, my friend.
And whether those Democratic, at least those leaders who see a brighter democratic future for the people of Venezuela, whether they are able to have their voices heard, and whether they are able to overthrow the yoke of the Maduro regime.
And the overthrow of the regime. Many will say that this was, obviously unexpected, but certainly, way over the top than what many would predict. Do you think this was the best way of upending the Maduro regime?
Well, it's certainly the cleanest, and it means that there'll be less military action, hopefully, going forward.
Exactly. This was the cleanest way to do this. It had to be done. This was executed. This was the cleanest way to do it. Minimum loss of life, minimum military strikes, minimum damage to infrastructure, and Maduro and his wife are still alive, which is amazing because Obama did not give Gaddafi that same luxury. Obama did not give Gaddafi that same mercy. He didn't. This is not the first time we've seen a leader captured. They didn't give Saddam Hussein this type of mercy. They didn't. I mean, so what are we saying here? I mean, Trump literally just avoided a war, and he kept the man alive, unlike his predecessors. What do you think Hillary Clinton would have done if she was in charge? So, I mean, you guys are looking at this, the TDS is causing you to be a maniacal maniac. It's causing you to pretend like to virtue signal like you're just a good person, but you're literally advocating for death. And you're not being grateful or even being appreciative for the fact that Trump kept this man alive when no other president in American history would have. That's why that's a symptom of the TDS. It's brain rot. You're not able to process data correctly, unfortunately.
And that Maduro will be brought to trial for his numerous crimes.
How do you think civilians in Venezuela are seeing this move this morning?
They're probably shocked. I mean, everybody, as Matt Rivers was reporting, he's talking to people in Caracas. The people in Caracas in Venezuela certainly had a feeling that something was going to happen given the degree and the size of the U.S. military buildup in the Caribbean. But they didn't know it would be this bold, this daring. I mean, this is going to be very interesting to figure out how the U.S. Special Operations Forces went in there. How did they snatch the Maduro and his wife? How did they get the intelligence? All of the rehearsals that would have had to have gone into effect. Where did those helicopters launch from?
That's crazy. They think that we had to be this was a very bold move, and it's like, bro, we're Americans. There's nothing to fear besides fear itself. It's being afraid and being fearful of confrontation is un-American. That's not we don't shy away from conflicts. So I don't know why people would think this is a bold move. I mean, we're professionals at this. We have the best in the world, some of the best in the world. I can't say we are the only players in the world that have the best. Like I said, we've seen the Russian Federation and we seen Wagner. We didn't want any parts of Wagner. We wanted no parts. So, I mean, we're good. But again, this is our backyard. let's not run head up with Chinese special forces or the Russian Federation or Wagner. Let's just stay in our territory, shall we? Let's just go after the cartels. Let's go after Venezuela. Let's not bite off more than we can chew. Okay.
Really just a stunning, amazingly successful, as of right now, operation by U.S. Special Operations Forces.
Very quickly, Stephen, what do you see the U.S. Congress saying, doing about this?
Well, they're not going to be happy. I'm not seeing any reports that Congress had been notified beforehand.
Hey, 2nd Bat 3rd MAR Division. What a time to be alive. You're living in the Trump days. You know that? You're living in history as we speak. There's a lot going on. There's a lot. That's why I said follow my channel. Please subscribe. I report on everything. I talk about all this stuff 24/7. This is part of my media company. I'm actually going to be, because a lot of our previous media people a lot of them are passing away from the vaccine. So because of that, there's like this big vacuum. There's a big gap in personalities. So I saw this coming, and that's why I've been kind of building myself up. And it's not necessarily easy to sit on a microphone in front of a camera and talk to people. It's draining mentally, but I wanted to do it because I know there's going to be a lot of openings. There's going to be more. So hopefully I can entertain you guys and talk to you. And, we can go back and forth. We're not going to always agree, but at least I'm here to bring a fresh perspective to you. I really don't try to do edited shows. I'm live now. I'm pretty much live on all my shows. So everything's just raw. We can just talk openly. Thank God that Trump won. And some of these conversations were never allowed on YouTube in the prior administration. I lost all my channels, all my Instagram and Facebook, and I was nuked from orbit as well. Now that I'm able to get back on social media and have these conversations, I'm happy to talk to you guys again. So I appreciate all the support. I saw people leaving, hitting my Cash App. I appreciate those. Even those little small $1, $2. Thank you guys. I appreciate that. I appreciate everything. It means a lot. And I'm up in the middle of the night talking to you guys. It's 5:36 a.m. here in Arizona. I'll still be here for the next 2 weeks, and then I'm back to Texas. So I will be reporting every day, and I will be keeping a close eye on this topic as well.
And part of that may be that the president wanted to maintain operational security. I mean, if you're going to put...
Cheers to you, Deborah. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you, guys.
Special operations forces on the ground in Venezuela and in Caracas, then operational security is absolutely essential here. And so maybe the notifications weren't done. The Congress is not going to be happy.
Thank you, 2nd Battalion, 3rd MAR Division. America first, America only. And I appreciate you guys' support. I love hearing and meeting other patriots and having these conversations. Obviously, when I report on any topic, it's going to be from the right-wing angle. So we all know what to expect. I mean, it's not an echo chamber. It's just people of like mind. So, and we understand, we see things a certain way. And I'll be honest, there's not a lot of people talking directly to us. I watch a lot of content creators, and I feel like they miss so many things. So I'm hopefully can, fill in those gaps, and the things that I'm wishing other people would talk about, I'll just do it myself instead of waiting for somebody else to come along. Like I used to be a Big Tim Pool guy, and then he just kind of, self-immolated and fucked himself over the whole Candace thing. So now I'm like, well, now what am I going to do? I guess I got to just sit up here on this microphone and buy more cameras and start doing my own daily show. I have no other choice because, well, if I can't watch him, I got to create something to watch. And I have to create something for you to watch as well. We need more options. The guy was already talking about shutting down his whole network if he didn't get this money from Israel. Some other random funding. So what I was saying, well, then I'll fill the gap and I'll bring on guests and I'll just sit there and we'll just read the news. because there's no such thing as a slow day in the Trump years. There's no slow media day in the Trump years. So here I am. So I appreciate you guys for subscribing, sending cash apps. Thank you guys so much. I'm new to all this. I don't really know how to properly ask for everything or say stuff, but I just want to say thank you guys for the support and for being here. And we're going to go actually I was going to bring on the Twitter Spaces, Myron Gaines. There's other people that are reporting on this, so we're going to go to in a second.
About that, but if this is the last of the military strikes, then maybe that it's all going to be a moot point.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what? Tim Pool used to be great, but you notice one thing: the difference between Tim Pool today and the Tim Pool from 8 months ago is all of a sudden he got married. Marriage puts a lot of pressure on a man, and it'll cause you to do some strange and weird things for some change. Even Brandon Tatum, I noticed his wife became more vocal, and that's when he lost his goddamn mind. So I'm noticing that when you have somebody in your ear whispering to you about money and talking this and this, it'll make a man completely change everything he stood on, his morals and his values. And I've only seen that shift happen when men are under extreme pressure, when they're married or they're in a relationship situation. I've seen it happen in other situations, and I feel sorry for those guys because that's a situation there's no way out of. You're stuck. You know, they say it's cheaper to keep her. You can't really even break up with her, so you're really between a rock and a hard place, unfortunately. So that's what I noticed about those two guys. I don't know if anybody else noticed it, but because of that, I'm like, look, I'll just fill that situation, and I'm not gonna have anyone in my ear stopping me. No bad influences. I'm just going to keep going and keep making content and talking to you guys. So, hello.
Hey, Stephen Ganyard, thanks so much for all that great analysis. Again, President Trump confirming just moments ago that the U.S. launched large-scale strikes against Venezuela and that President Maduro and his wife have been captured and flown out of Venezuela. President Trump will be holding a news conference later today.
I wonder where they went first. Due to proximity, I would say they probably went to Guantanamo first, but I don't know if they're going to be flying him into Texas or into Florida. My guess is Florida. My guess is once they get him into Florida, that's where he's going to be held in Florida. I'm just not sure where, but we're going to find out in the next couple of hours. So there's other people that have been reporting on this. Let's go to... we were talking to Myron. There we go.
At this point, it's not clear exactly what the Venezuelan military may have done in response to any of this. We have not seen any indication that there was any kind of immediate response when the aircraft were going or when these strikes were occurring. But remember another thing that the military has been doing in recent weeks and months now, and that is flying missions close to the airspace that would become Venezuelan airspace. So right up to the border of international airspace, international waters, right up to the border of Venezuela. A lot of times the military will do that for a reason. It's not just testing routes. It's not just seeing what they can see. It's trying to figure out exactly what the air defense is in a place, how they respond to an aircraft. So it's known as painting an aircraft. Does the air defenses that are potentially lined up along the border there of Venezuela, are they latching onto U.S. military aircraft when they fly up close to Venezuelan airspace? This would give the military, over the course of the last several weeks, when we've seen them do this time and time again, even with things like long-range bombers, are the Venezuelan air defenses painting those aircraft? How quickly do they respond? This gives the military, the U.S. military, essentially a pattern of life of how the Venezuelan military would respond to aircraft flying in. So all of these things that we have seen occur over the last several weeks and months with the military, the buildup, the exercises, the routines that they have been flying, what they have been doing, it appears that it's all been building up to this, Peter. But the big question that we still don't have a good answer to is, beyond the strikes and beyond what appears to be providing a lift to law enforcement and other U.S. officials as part of this picking up Maduro and his wife, what other component, what other part did the U.S. military play? And so we just don't have an answer to that at this point, Peter.
Courtney Kuby covers the Pentagon for us right now. I want to share some other information while you, Courtney, have been speaking, again, as we're monitoring the situation there, as we try to get better understanding of Nicolás Maduro's whereabouts. and the evolving situation there. The New York Times posting a short time ago that it has spoken to President Trump early this morning, where in its words, it celebrated the success of the mission to capture the Venezuelan president. They quote President Trump saying, "A lot of good planning and a lot of great troops and great people," he said. He said it was a brilliant operation. Actually, the Times asked him if he had sought congressional authority for the operation.
Yes, I am promoting. Don't listen to your wife. I'm promoting that. Sure.
Or what is next for Venezuela. And when asked that question, the president said he would address those matters during a news conference to take place at Mar-a-Lago this morning, his private club there in Florida. The president announcing earlier that would take place at roughly 11 a.m. Eastern time. We should also tell you that Venezuela's vice president there has spoken on state-run television after the president's post this morning saying that
hey, thank you, Wavioli9492. I'm a paid Russian propagandist. That's the first time somebody's ever called me that. Thank you. That's actually pretty cool. I see you guys say that about other people, but that's when they're over the target or they're doing a good job. Usually it's people that are like bigger creators or bigger personalities than myself. Usually people on my low level, we're never really given that type of, credit. No one ever thinks you obviously, you know how much of a compliment that is? You think that I'm so good at what I'm doing that the Russians literally came down from Russia and they contacted me. We went out, we had, I don't know, lamachum or some derna or something. And they were like, we need you, Rico, too. And it sounds just like the guy from Rocky and Bullwinkle. And they just talked to me and they say, here, we have your monies. And they gave me monies. I took the monies. And now I come on here just to talk to people. I am flattered. So thank you, Wavioli. And appreciate it. Thank you for, you don't got to compliment. You're making me get a little flushed here. Good Lord, man. Wait, you might want to hit me in the private chat. You want to talk dirty to me. You don't got to do that in the public space, Wavioli. Jesus.
Nicolás Maduro's location was unknown and that she was asking President Trump for proof of life. Again, it raises real questions about the governance of that country in this time with what the president describes as a massive armada of 15,000 American troops, forces off the coast of that country. I want to bring in now the NBC News military analyst, the Colonel Steve Warren, who is joining us this morning. Colonel Warren, Happy New Year. We are off to the races as we begin this new year again. The president wasting no time at the start of the year in his pressure campaign against Nick.
What part of the Russian invasion did I lie about, my friend? If you don't mind being a little bit more specific. I didn't want to correct you when you said they invaded in 2014. So I was just wondering what you were talking about.
Nicolás Maduro ultimately, as he said this morning, capturing him and his wife, taking them out of the country. Unclear if this was a negotiated exit, but as the Republican Senator Mike Lee said, the strikes that we saw early this morning were done in effect to protect the executing of that arrest warrant, the effort by those forces to pick him up. I know you haven't been in
a lot of work for just executing an arrest warrant. I'll tell you how that
is there, but give us a sense about how something like this would be conducted, how
No. Don't backtrack on your compliment now. I like it. Don't backtrack. Don't take back your compliment. Don't say, no, you're not getting. Nah, I'm a paid Russian propagandist because I'm honest about the war, because I'm honest about the countries, because I don't necessarily have any bias when it comes to information. I believe that transparency is key. And if you're just listening to, all of our media is controlled by like 3 different groups. That's it. So I actually watch media from other countries in other languages, and I'm able to pull together people that are literally right there watching everything unfold. And that's where I get my information from, not just listening to what Anderson Cooper or Don Lemon or Joy Reid was telling me to believe. I don't listen to those people. You shouldn't either. That's also the source of your brain rot, my friend.
Challenging it is, and what consideration?
I mean, you might not like me now, but you're kind of my biggest fan tonight, and you're still here. So I appreciate you being here, whether we're going back and forth. If it seems negative, it really isn't. I appreciate all the going back and forth because you're giving information to the audience who are watching you as well, and they're seeing how I'm answering your questions, and they're watching our back and forth, and they're able to go in and fact check you and fact check me. So that's just giving me more credibility. So I appreciate the interaction. So don't think I'm trying to scare you away. I actually appreciate what you're doing. But the good thing is you can come and listen to me. I'll talk to you. So welcome.
Would have gone into place in advance of a dramatic capture operation like this?
Peter, often our more elite, what we call the tier one, so this is our most elite special forces, often our tier one special forces will operate in conjunction with many other agencies throughout the government, whether it's the CIA, as we may likely have seen in that initial potential ground strike, that first ground strike we saw.
I'm going to reach. The vibes from Wavioli are extremely left. I'm talking like pink hair, wearing tighty whities with roller skates and like horn rim glasses, like the ones that what's his name, Mark Cuban was wearing when he was trying to pretend like he was like some kind of wannabe politician, and he's just floating around preschools. That's the kind of vibe I'm getting from Wavioli, like one of those people. But I could be wrong. But I'm just saying, it just seems like that. And I'm like, okay, but he's still here. So maybe he does want to learn. Maybe he does want to hear a difference of opinion. You got to understand, breaking out of that cult mindset, and then you got to think about it. These people, they bet everything on the left. They really believed in Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and they bet their lives on those people. And when those people said, stick out your arm, let us inject you. And if you don't let us give you this experimental medical procedure that's irreversible, then you're just a white supremacist, Trump supporting racist. And a lot of these people believe that. So bringing them back to reality and snapping them out of that psychosis, I never said it was going to be a easy downhill mission. It's going to be rough. It's hard to pull people out of that delusion. I meet a lot of delusional people. I know black people that literally in their mind, there's a white man outside of their bedroom window every night, and he torments them. He follows them to work. He follows them in their car. He makes prices go up when they try to buy things. He stops them from getting hired in places. They can't go anywhere without this imaginary invisible white man following them and tormenting them and poking them in the back. There's a lot of delusion. There's a lot of people that have these mental ailments. And the only way to get them out of that is to talk to them. But it takes a lot of conversation. It takes time. It's not easy. So you have to give them grace and a little bit of mercy and understanding, because to brainwash these people, it starts from a young age, and they don't find out that everything that they were taught or told was BS until, well, now the internet is free. We can talk to each other. We couldn't remember 2 years ago, these conversations were dead on YouTube. We didn't even have X 2 years ago. This is all new. Remember Elon Musk walked in with that kitchen sink? And I'm not even the biggest Musk fan. But remember, we didn't even have these options to have these conversations. So, we're going to have to give these people more time. They need more time. But they'll eventually come around because, well, you can't fight with reality. Not forever.
That's here in a second too, guys.
Several days ago, or often law enforcement agencies. It is not uncommon for the tier one special operators to work with law enforcement agencies, particularly, we did this.
Clyde, I'm proud of you. Not a lot of people can say that. I never even took a test. It didn't make any sense. And when I asked people to explain to me why I should do any of it, when they told me it's because I said so, I said, well, then we're going to have to fight, because you don't talk to me like that. If I ask you a question, you're going to answer it. and you're not going to give me any back. You're going to answer my question. If you're trying to give me advice or tell me to do something, you better be able to explain why, and it better be a really good explanation. And nobody had any for me. So because of that, I'm pure blood. And I met a girl, it's crazy. I was at this bar when this story broke, and then I took off and came home to get on live. I met this beautiful chick at the bar. And she was just telling me about how, she used to love her dad a lot. And her dad, he was super fit, used to work out every day, ripped guy. All of a sudden, he just magically had 5 heart attacks in one day. Out of nowhere. And I was like, that's weird. Because LeBron James's son had 3 to 5 heart attacks in one day. Matter of fact, so my other friends that had heart attacks that died, they had, but if you don't have immediate medical attention, like on the spot when those heart attacks hit, you expire. And her father didn't have the immediate medical attention. And she was trying to she was trying to convince me at first that he used to eat a lot of like peanut butter or something. And she was like, I think maybe it was the peanut butter gave him a heart attack. And I was like, was he fully vaxxed? And she was like, huh. But the problem is this, she is too. So to understand that your father's mortality was a result of a decision that you also made, that's the part that makes it hard for people to accept. They don't want to think about their parents and their friends. And that's a lot to deal with and to process. Personally, my birthday was only a couple of days ago. Being a Capricorn, I don't really feel anything. I think I don't feel. So I don't really, I'm not good with emotions, but like I said, there's going to be a lot of openings on the internet. Just ask, go to YouTube, go to the browser and see where Scott Adams is today. Again, because of the vax, there's going to be a lot of openings. So I'm here to fill that space. I'm just here. So I'll be available for you guys, nice to meet you all. And thank you for the other subscribers and for everybody that's been sending little donations or whatever. I'm going to definitely buy some coffee tomorrow, some hot chocolate and some tea. And I'm going to be talking all day. So I appreciate you guys for even being here. The new subscribers, you guys are helping my subscribers go up. You guys are liking it. More people are seeing it. This is a really big live for me. Let's see how many people are on live right now. Yeah, there's 700 because I'm streaming live on 8 platforms right now. So I appreciate you guys just being here. This is huge for me. For other content creators, this is like not that big of a deal. For me, this is a lot. So I appreciate you guys all being here.
I think fairly regularly during the Afghanistan conflict. So our special forces operations and our more elite law enforcement operators are familiar with working with each other. Now, as far as how an operation like this comes together, it's an extraordinary and complicated thing to do.
He was captured, not abducted. I know you guys want to think, if ICE arrests you, you're being abducted and kidnapped. Oh, wait a minute. If the police arrest you for a DUI, you're being abducted and kidnapped. You're not being arrested. You guys are fucking morons. He's captured. He's a criminal, and he's being brought to the United States. He's alive and well. He's not being abducted. He actually went voluntarily. He went with his own way. He didn't fight his way. He didn't fight. He surrendered. So there's a big difference.
Real praise to our soldiers and sailors and law enforcement officials who were able to pull this off. So far,
that would be crazy if they put him in that hole with Chapo. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but I just think Trump is playing a bigger game. I don't think Trump wants to hurt Maduro. I just think he wants to show Maduro the light. I think he wants Maduro, when Trump spares Maduro's life, Maduro's going to be the biggest Trump supporter in South America. We need more of those. So I don't think if Trump shows him mercy, Maduro will wear the same red hat, the same red MAGA hat that I'm wearing. Maduro will have one on as well. So I'm just saying, I would hope that Trump would consider that this man is more valuable in power in his country than if we make him a martyr. You know, that's what I would hope Trump would realize.
We haven't received any reports of U.S. casualties, which is an extraordinary thing, and we're really proud of our men and women who executed it. But it takes there's sort of several layers, and Courtney Kube referenced it a little bit just moments ago. Initially, you have to ensure that you have the ability to.
Absolutely, the terrorists that have been killing Christians have got what they deserve. The fact that Trump told the people that in Nigeria that were asking for help that if they keep killing Christians, we're going to come in there guns a-blazing. And then a matter of weeks later, we are in there guns a-blazing to those ISIS camps in northern Nigeria. It shows you that Trump's a man of his word. And the people in Nigeria are grateful, extremely grateful. We have a lot of Trump supporters over there as well. So you might be disillusioned here in the United States because you have that TDS, but the rest of the world is really aligned with me and with our administration and our agenda. This America First agenda, people in other countries understand that if America does well, everyone does well. You know, we're a beacon of hope. A lot of people depend on us and they look to us. I mean, when I was living in other countries, I was always surprised that I can turn the channel and there's more news about the United States than there are about that country. Like I watch Sky News. They report more on American politics than they do Australian politics, which is crazy because they're based in Australia. So we are the tip of the spear. Everyone knows whatever way the United States goes, the world goes. So, you know, that's why it's important that we, again, keep things in perspective and we keep people up to date with what's happening and we're honest about what's going on in ourselves. You know, people are really looking to us to see what's going on and what's going to happen next. But they want to see that Trump is, you know, using his strength and his knowledge. It seems like he's very knowledgeable about how to deal with people in these situations. You know, I always tell people life's more so about who are your allies and who are your enemies. And it seems like Trump's trying to create more alliances, not necessarily trying to kill people, but he's trying to bring people to our side. If he gives Maduro mercy, Maduro will be the largest Trump supporter in South America. I promise.
To get our aircraft into the target area without being shot down. So we have to execute what we call the suppression of enemy air defenses. So that could be some of the early explosions that we saw, as Courtney mentioned, as our correspondent Courtney Kube mentioned, possibly the use of Tomahawks or other remote capabilities to damage or destroy.
Deborah, you are absolutely spot on. Now they respect our country again. Now they respect our president again. We didn't even have to go in there and level the country. We didn't do what the Israelis did to Gaza. We didn't turn Venezuela into a parking lot. We literally went in there with surgical precision. We saved a lot of lives. We didn't completely wipe out their infrastructure. And the man is still alive to fight another day. And if he plays his cards right, one day he'll be home. If he plays his card right. The amount of mercy we have just shown the world that we have for even those who we would consider our enemies, this is massive. Again, Gaddafi was not given this mercy. Neither was Saddam, neither was bin Laden. And that fake ass story, nobody was. Nobody. So this is showing that the America from before is different than the America going forward. And this is the kind of example that I think is a good example for us to run by.
Air defense radars and air defense launchers, right? So that's the initial execution. The next thing.
Well, yes, because Trump did not destroy Venezuela and he did not kidnap him. Maduro was captured. He was arrested. He's already been charged in the United States that he was brought to justice. And because he's still alive, he will respect our country and he will be grateful to our president. His life was not guaranteed. His life was not guaranteed. They could have executed him right there on the spot. I don't know if you understand the difference between life and death, but Maduro's life flashed before his eyes. Tomorrow, even if he's in a jail cell, that cereal is going to taste a little bit better because the fact that he can still taste it means he's alive. And when you're as close to death as he must have came tonight, because he had no idea if the Americans were going to take him or just literally mop him right there. They could have just liquidated him. His entire family, his entire building, his home, his structure, his entire neighborhood, his entire military, they could have been liquidated on the spot. But we showed them mercy. I think that will earn our favor, and I think Maduro will be appreciative about that. Any man of any intelligence would be, especially a man in his position. You might be ungrateful, but everybody else is not when it comes to their lives.
What we like to try and do is isolate. So once we've suppressed air defense, we then try to isolate the target area. In this case, apparently we somehow knew where Nicolás Maduro and his wife were. It's unclear.
Yeah, Bibi's been charged with genocide. Bibi's actually he's a legit war criminal, and there's a warrant for his arrest from the ICC, and they're trying to figure out when it's going to be enforced. However, he is facing corruption charges and will be sent to prison in Israel once this whole war situation is settled. He's going to prison. And Israel has a history of imprisoning its corrupt politicians. Bibi was actually caught red-handed in a pay-for-play stunt with someone, and they got him on video, they got him on audio, and he was going down. And that's why they said he orchestrated this October 7th situation to keep himself out of prison. And now that Trump created peace, now that Trump created peace in Gaza and was able to negotiate a ceasefire, that the war readiness of Israel and IDF is not necessary anymore. So they can probably go back to business as usual soon. And then that does mean that Bibi will be going to jail. Thank goodness.
Whether that was because we had spoken with them, we don't know how we knew this, but somehow we knew where Maduro may well have been.
No, I don't think this is a distraction from Epstein. We don't really need a distraction from Epstein. Epstein is flowing in the bodies of a lot of our friends and family who are dropping dead every day. That's what Epstein's legacy is. It's the vaccine. It's not sex with kids. It's his work that he. Did you guys ever ask why did he have a lab at MIT? Why did he have an office in all these universities on the East Coast in their science labs? What was his research? Why did he have a lab and 1,000 scientists come to Epstein Island? What was their research? What were they doing? What was Epstein's, what was his focus for his research? What were they doing? We know about the politicians. They were there to help you get past all the regulations so that the vaccine could be injected into people without going through 15 years of testing and scrutiny. That's what had to get, that's why you needed those. That's why you had to blackmail those politicians. But what was his research about? Whenever this is over and you guys want to go look into this, look up Epstein and scientists. Why did he have an office in all these science universities? And he had labs in these universities after his sexual crimes conviction of 2008. So he had labs, he had offices in these universities up until 2019. What were they working on? You guys are asking the wrong questions about Epstein. So and because of that, you have a huge blind spot of the things you need to be worried about, which is unfortunate because by the time that all comes out in a few years, well, a lot of the people won't be here anymore to understand what happened to them with that injection or series of injections. I'm sorry.
and we isolated that area. That can be done, again, through remote capabilities, or it could be done with actual troops on the ground to provide what we call security. And then finally, special forces operators, along most likely with some sort of federal law enforcement, whether it's a marshal or FBI. At this point, we don't know. But after
Yes, Leah, that's exactly how it went. Exactly how it went. Unfortunately, you don't get to make the decisions. You're just along for the ride. If you don't like them, the decisions, you can always repatriate yourself, drop your American citizenship, move to another country, and fight against Trump. You have that option. But as long as you're here and you spend money on anything every day, you are supporting whatever we're doing. So you can always leave, but as long as you're here, we appreciate your support.
Question of air defense, isolation of the
DE and HSI ran the case.
objective area. Finally, we move in and arrest the individual that we're looking for.
Colonel Ward, I want to get a better understanding, of this. Obviously, it would require some troops to touch the ground to be able to pick up Nicolás Maduro in the first place here. Obviously, 15,000 troops is not enough to secure a country like that. The president has made no indication that ground troops will be going into Venezuela in any meaningful way right now. But what sort of a challenge does this pose for the United States?
That's true. Liberals love Venezuela. I don't know why so many of them have not relocated there. I wonder why. I mean, if they love the place so much, why aren't you there? You love socialism. You love communism. You love dictators. You don't like how America moves, our Constitution. You don't like any of it. I don't understand. I just don't get it.
This ultimately becomes less a military one, but more a diplomatic one to try to allow that.
Well, Trump gave me a lot. Trump gave me the option to not take that vaccine. He never pressed it on anybody. He actually gave you a bunch of options. So, and also with Trump removing a lot of the regulations, he allows people in my industry to be able to move forward. So the only thing I really need the government to do is just get the hell out of my way. I don't need the government I'm not like you. I'm not a Democrat. I don't need the government to feed me or to tell me what to do or how to live or to educate my children. That's my job as an American, as an adult, to do that for myself. That's what freedom means. Freedom means responsibility. You're responsible for yourself. That comes with the freedom part. You guys have a skewed vision of what that means. So that's where we differ, actually.
That country to take
Hold on a sec, guys. I'm here.
preferred fork in the road, not to return to a sort of authoritarian type regime or leader, but to focus on a more democratic led government right now. Ultimately, these are the early.
Yeah, I don't believe in welfare, Uncle Shiesty. So that's for you. I know you need them to give you something. I didn't ask Trump for a cent. I just asked Trump to get some of these people out of my way so that I can open, so that I can do business, so that I can move forward. I didn't need a penny from them. I didn't ask for a penny. Didn't want them. I just wanted them out of the way. And then also I wanted him to make it illegal to do child mutilation in the United States. Everything I've asked for, I've gotten from Trump for my vote times 10. There were some things that I didn't even know were going to happen that I appreciate that have happened so far. So I voted for all of this. I'm originally from California. I'm watching all my friends go back to work because all the illegals are gone. A lot of them are gone. They had their CDL licenses revoked. So now all my friends are back on the road. Friends that were truckers that were out of work are now making triple. And they're on the road as I'm making this video. Some of them are watching. The rents where I live in downtown Los Angeles have went down. A 2-bedroom that I saw that was $3,200 a year ago is now $2,400. So just seeing the results, that's all from Trump. So that's more money in our pocket because not only are me and my people, a lot of my people are back to work in California, but also our rents are going down. So that means, and then if the problem with the gas, that's the issues with gas, that's California government and these refineries are pulling out. That's limiting we're losing 20% of our refining capacity. So that means that gas is going to go up for the entire West Coast. And because gas is high, food's going to be high because, well, that's how you get the food to the stores is through, you're going to need oil, you're going to need gas, and that's going to cost more money. So those costs are going to still stay high until you guys get rid of that greasy piece of shit Newsom. But you guys love Democrats, right? So you can't say anything about it. You love high gas, right? That comes with your belief system. But for the rest of us in the other civilized parts of the country, our gas is a lot cheaper. Things are getting better. And who knew that illegal immigration was literally the reason why we lost generations of our society to crime? You know, I just remember growing up as a kid, we never had summer jobs. Jobs that were meant for 15 and 16-year-old boys, you know, working at a car wash or working at like a little warehouse or have like summer jobs. Every time you would go to one of those places, try to get a job, there's like some 40-year-old Mexican guy that couldn't speak English working under the table for half the price, no benefits. And it's like, okay, how can I compete with that? So we never even got in the habit of even looking for jobs. I swear, I remember when I was like 17, I went to go visit my aunt, and I went to Arizona next door. I had never seen a Black person working at a store, like at a register. And they were like, and I seen a white person working in the store. I was like, what the hell is this? Never seen it in my life. Never seen a non-Mexican person working anywhere. So I'm like, okay, so this is why my cities are full of everyone just joined gangs because nobody had jobs. No, everyone had to go out and try to commit crimes or find little hustles to do to make money. There's no work because of illegal immigration. And now I'm watching the crime rates go down. Lowest murder rates in years. Historic. Rents dropping. Wages are going up. And now all of a sudden there are jobs. But you're telling me Trump didn't give me a red cent? Man, go fuck yourself.
Steps that you watch militarily, and then there are other real challenges that begin.
Some would say that these steps that we've done up until now, frankly, are the easy steps, right? We have exceptional special operators, exceptional law enforcement operators who understand how to do these types of missions, but they happen at the speed of violence.
Yeah, I'm not African American, so you're gonna have to come up with some new slurs, coonery and all that, and toms, and I don't even understand what that stuff means. I just know that that's for Black people. It doesn't apply to me. So you're gonna have to read. I know you guys don't believe in books culturally in reading, but you're gonna have to figure out some other stuff and then come back because I think you're either talking to yourself or somebody else because that's not gonna work with me. It doesn't apply. But please continue.
Very, very quickly. A lot of planning obviously went into it, but the execution happens very, very quickly. Now comes what in some people's opinions would be
morning to you, Ross.
The very, very hard part. And we've seen this before. We saw this in Afghanistan beginning in, after 9/11. We saw this.
Gas is not regulated by the federal government. I don't think you understand how anything works. And that's the thing about you liberals. You just think everything grows on trees and just it's all magic and mysticism. You don't understand that there are systems that are in place and they have to all operate a certain way. Or if there's any delays or anything obstructed at all, prices are going to spike in one way or the other. But for California people, everything's going up as far as when it comes to gas. And that means for Nevada, for Arizona, the entire West Coast is going to suffer for California's bullshit mismanagement and the fact that they voted again for Newsom, even after we pulled together a really extensive recall. They didn't want Larry Elder. They wanted more Newsom. And now a lot of people are going to have to pay at the pump. They're going to suffer.
Iraq, when a regime is toppled, when a regime changes suddenly, there's a vacuum. Now there's a little bit of a vacuum. Who's in charge? Who's running the country? We don't know this. Neither does anyone in Venezuela, it would appear, know this. So there are, of course, as in any country, there are opposing forces. There are different forces who want to be in power? Where is the military internally going to fall on this? Where are the other power centers in Venezuela going to fall on this? Where are the other legitimate and somewhat powerful drug cartels who are operating in that country?
Well, I never seen that either until recently, because growing up in California, none of those jobs were ever available, ever. I never knew people that weren't Mexican could do landscaping. No idea until I left the state of California. It just shows you the kind of environment we're used to on the West Coast. And it was all and basically our entire society was destroyed due to illegal immigration just run amok. It was never, the laws have already been on the books. They were never enforced. Now we have millions of people that have just self-deported. And they said we'd rather go back and just try to apply the right way instead of you kicking in our doors in front of our children, kicking and permanently banning us from the United States with no path to being able to ever return. And now Americans are back to work. Americans are working in factories. Americans are driving trucks again. Americans are taking jobs in the fields. Americans can and will do any and every job. I don't give a fuck what Trump says about, oh, well, we don't have the talent to build batteries and build missiles. And it's like, Trump, shut the fuck up. Because with the right financial incentives, Americans will learn to do anything. So don't get me wrong. There are some things I disagree with, but overall, I don't agree with anybody 100% ever. I think that's weird if you do. So, I mean, like I said, I just needed them to get out of my way, but I've seen the results. So then the results are working.
We've talked about.
And by the results, I mean, what Trump's been doing is working and better than anything I've ever seen in my lifetime here in the U.S.
As the president has talked about, those cartels are still functioning. We've struck some of their boats, but that's about it. So these cartels are still there. They're still strong.
Yeah, the Chinese bots are having a meltdown, but man, are they effective. I saw a woman, she was doing, there was like a story about her the other day. She left she's 50 years old, overweight, and she divorced her husband because a bunch of bots told her that she deserves better. She's beautiful. They want to marry her. She divorces her husband, finds out she was basically like bot fished. And they traced these bots back to accounts in like South Korea and China. And I'm like, these other countries with these bots, they literally, think about it. I don't know if YBO is even a real person. Excuse me, no profile picture, no presence, no. But I mean, they're fun to interact with on here, but you don't even know if they're even real. You have no idea. And there are people that see a bunch of bots making comments and they'll just assume that that's the way society is seeing what the news is talking about or whatever. And, you know, people are followers. They'll go along to get along. I'm not that type of person, but a lot of people will. So the bots, they are effective. So yeah, I see some of those, and there are some suspicious bot-like people in the chat. So, and they are on fire, but I guess they're 24/7. These bot farms are really, they're good at what they do.
Functioning. The military, we have not, unlike what we did in Afghanistan or what we did in Iraq, we have not, frankly, inflicted any significant damage on the Venezuela.
Trump has absolutely fixed the country. There's so many people that have no clue how close we came to losing everything. And Trump's doing everything in his power. Our administration's doing everything in our power to make sure we never are that close to losing this country again. You got to think about it. The liberals, if Russian tanks landed on the shores of New York, liberals who are in these comments talking, they would literally see the tanks. They jump on top of the tanks and start twerking. They would literally try to help the tanks find conservatives or anybody white and tell them that's the enemy. They'd sell us all out. They're not the same type of Americans as patriots and people who love the country. They hate the country. They say the country's racist, and they say everybody's racist, and everybody's oppressive, and everybody's this, and everybody's that, and love is love. So 8-year-olds should be able to cut off their genitals, and that'll make them happy, and they're affirming. It's all kind of weird, strange people here. So that's why we literally have to save our country, but we also have to remove a certain element. There's a certain element that is already impossible for us to coexist with. So it's just a pending civil conflict that's going to, it's pending. It's going to happen eventually. And then when the smoke settles, then we'll be able to move forward. So, and I'll be honest, that's going to have to happen sooner than later. It's inevitable. So I think we're all just prepared for it. And this is the thing. People always want to talk about civil war, but they never want to be specific about, well, who will we be fighting? Watch my channel, subscribe. I will tell you exactly who the enemy is, what they look like, and exactly who you should be expecting to be on the other side against when it does start.
The military. So what are they going to do now is certainly a question, I think, on everyone's mind.
Colonel Steve Warren is an NBC News military analyst. Colonel Warren, we appreciate your expertise in helping us better understand the situation that's still evolving on the ground there in Caracas, Venezuela. As again, hopefully we can put up another picture to show our viewers the situation there. It's a new day, a new dawn in many ways, and it's one that begins without the longtime president of that country, the authoritarian leader, Nicolás Maduro, who's now been captured and taken.
I know you think Trump's your daddy, but it's not his job to give a fuck about you. Trump's not your Jesus. He's not your king, right? Then you guys just do a whole no kings thing. It's not his job to love you and embrace you in his bosom. Grow the fuck up.
And out of the country alongside his wife, according to the president, by U.S. forces. I want to get to our chief foreign correspondent again, Richard Engel, who's been watching this news developing right now. Richard, among the questions that the president will surely be asked at a news conference to take place about 5 hours from now at Mar-a-Lago is
don't get me wrong. Picking cotton is still being gainfully employed. So if there's a job picking cotton, as long as they're paying a livable wage, I don't think that's actually a punishment. I think that's actually fair. You're still gainfully employed, so that's not really an insult, my friend. So, and then don't forget, I'm an immigrant. My family's we're immigrants. We used to work on farms. We're farmers where I'm from. So, yeah, that's still farming work. It's still work. We came to the U.S. to work. We didn't come here to scam with daycares like the Somali. That's not what we came. We came to work. We came to assimilate. We came to be Americans. There's a big difference, huge difference.
Whether he had any conversations with Maduro in recent days. Maduro told a Spanish journalist only a couple of days ago that he was open to, in effect, discussions, conversations, perhaps even negotiate.
The rest of the world can cut us off. We have our hemisphere. That's why we're building our chip manufacturing. We've moved it from Taiwan to Arizona. That's why we don't need to buy lumber from Canada or cars from Canada or maple syrup from Canada. We have our own everything here. America first, America only.
With the United States. We wait for those answers. We wait to learn where Maduro is right now. But it also raises real questions about what happens next in that country and what it does in terms of the president's desire to sort of crack down on that narco-terrorist state, with so much of the regime still, as evidenced by the public statements coming out of the country, remaining in effect, whether in power, certainly in its.
Absolutely, it does pay well to work for a farmer. There's no shame in labor. When did everybody become too good for an honest day's work? I don't know when that became a thing, but I've personally never subscribed to it. So maybe you guys are just better than me. Excuse me. Fucking elitist.
Positions, though it's unclear who really is in power there.
This is a regime change operation. The government has been decapitated. There clearly was
maybe this hat did come from China. I don't know. Maybe it did. Maybe a good point. But import and export, it's business.
degree of coordination. Clear with Maduro himself. Not full coordination with Maduro himself. If he wanted to, he could have fled the country. He could have gone to a friendly country. He has some good personal relations with the president of Turkey. He has decent relations with.
Yeah, my family immigrated here, but I was born here in the U.S. But my family did immigrate here, so I guess we just look at this country a little bit different. We're more grateful. We're more appreciative. We don't take it for granted. But then again, you got to think about it. You know, there's a lot of people who are disgruntled about the country because they want the laws against pedophilia to change. They feel like because of Trump, they can't have their rights to have sexual access to children was taken away from them since Trump took office. Because remember, under Biden, that's when they were already doing this push. The same push they had in California, SB Bill 145, where they decriminalized being caught with underage kids for men if the kid says he's gay and you're gay too. There was a push for that to go east out of California. Charlie Kirk started talking about it. Trump brought it up. And the awareness of what was going on, not only did it slow it down, it spread, it actually reversed it. So people feel like that's the right that they lost, is having sexual access to children legally, where it would be a sexual orientation that is affirmed and not is criminalized. So when you see a lot of people that are just always Trump, they're so angry. Well, it's because of the kids. They lost their access to children. Because remember, it was open season for grooming and all that. You're able to do that in schools. Under Biden, they were even Newsom. Yeah, I want more trans kids, and they want more abused and mentally ill kids. Like these are sick people here. So you can't really let them insult you. You can't really let them bother you. You can't even really argue with them too much. You got to think about it. You got to think about the kind of person you're arguing with. Are they even worth that attention? It's really not. I know why they hate Trump so much. And it's nothing to do with that he said Rosie O'Donnell was a pig. It's nothing to do with that. It's everything to do with children. And they hate that I know that. And they hate that I point that out. And they hate that I remind people. And you got to understand, that's why they hate Trump. That's why they hated Kirk. That's why they used to go up there and they want to push that back. That's what they always want to talk about. It's all about kids, access to kids. They started really hating Trump when he started bringing up that he was hunting down the pedophiles that were trafficking the kids across the border. Because, Central and South America, they would kidnap kids and bring them to the United States, and they would pretend that these are their children, and they would sell them over here. It's a big business. Trump stopped all that. And they hated him for it because of the kids. They want kids. So you can't really argue with pedos and creepos. They're going to get in here and they're going to pretend they hate Trump from all kind of weird reasons. It's really just about the kids. But they can't say that openly because, Biden and Harris lost this time. Yeah, I know, right? Sad for you.
With Russia, he's had good relations with Cuba or even Colombia. There are places where if he had wanted to go, he could have gone. So this clearly wasn't a surrender. This was a capture. And as we talked about earlier,
Wild Child Honeybee, if you want to stay tuned, then I'll show you what I'm talking about. If I don't know if you took a gander at my page. It's lots of content. There's lots of videos. I do episodes every single day. I try to do at least 4 to 6 or more. And I spend hours and hours on here talking to people. So I'll explain everything to you in further detail. You're probably just now coming in a little bit late, but there's a lot going on and I'll help explain it to you. Just stay tuned.
This helicopter extraction was supported by a military operation.
Hey, shout out to Uncle Shiesty. He's been real good to me in the chat. I appreciate it. Thank you for the support.
Was tomahawks or airstrikes or a combination of both. There was suppressive fire used to protect U.S. personnel during this extraction operation. Now, as you talked earlier,
Uncle Shiesty, I wouldn't call you a nobody. I think you're somebody. Repeat after me. I am somebody. You're like, oh, nobody. Yeah, you're somebody. You're here. So I believe in you. So don't worry about it.
Earlier about this may be the easy part. Of course, it's not easy. Only a few countries in the world, perhaps only the United States, has this kind of capability. But now, who is going to run the country? Was this President Trump's?
I don't know, Wavioli. Do you want them to follow you? What do you have on your page that's so good that they should go follow? Do you have anything better? If you guys have something better, you guys are welcome to pitch it here in the chat. Maybe somebody will want to follow you, and then let the people decide. Right? May the best men win.
Perhaps greatest military accomplishment in a bloodless regime change operation against an illegitimate dictator who ran a mafia state. If there's a successful, quick democratic transition and the legitimate opposition, which won the last elections, which were then stolen from them, if they are able to come into power, work out a working relationship with the existing Venezuelan military, then this will be a great success. If, however, the military divides, a new strong man who is potentially anti-United States emerges in power, the country descends into civil war, then this will be perhaps President Trump's greatest failure. He clearly is hoping for the latter, and I know a lot of back-channel negotiations have been involved in this. I've been talking to some of the negotiators who were working with Trump administration officials. And there are many Trump administration officials who have interests here. President Trump's interest, as he's made clear, was always the drugs, to stop the drug trade. And he's interested in Venezuela's oil. He's made that clear. Venezuela has enormous oil reserves. And he was critical when the United States went into Iraq that the United States didn't take the oil. Marco Rubio himself, coming up in Latin American politics, anti-Cuban platform, has an interest in regime change in Venezuela.
Yeah, that's not true, Wild Child. We actually debunked that yesterday. You'd have to tune into that episode. But you might want to double check that before you make those kind of statements, because it makes you look a little weird when you just say stuff. And I'm not saying that you're lying on purpose. You're just misinformed. You don't know any better, but you should be able to look this stuff up first before you post it.
Which he hopes will then weaken an alliance of states that are anti-American in Latin America, including Cuba and Venezuela being the largest. You mentioned Miller, who has an immigration agenda. Would want fewer migrants coming out of Venezuela, potentially Venezuela is becoming a place where migrants can go. So this is a new day for Latin America.
Right.
And the U.S. military carried an operation. We're going to hear a lot about it, how successful it was. But
think about how amazing that would be if instead of people fleeing Venezuela, they would start to want to go to Venezuela. Because it's been Maduro who's been one of the biggest reasons why the country is now so poor. Their currency is toilet paper. And even though they make, it's not a poor country because they're rich in oil. It's just that everything is through corruption. Everything is just stolen away from the people and just siphoned from the country. And it's a shame. So, if we're going to try to get a grip around how to control the illegal immigration, first things first, maybe some of these countries shouldn't be so uninhabitable that so many people want to leave. Now, I do live in South America part-time as well. The country I live in, a lot of people don't want to come here from there. But Venezuela, we have a lot of Venezuelan people. I meet people in Venezuela like every week when I'm there. And they're all leaving because of the economy. But it's not like the United States is their first stop. I mean, you could go to Mexico. There's other countries that have economies that are doing well. But if we could help these countries turn around their society by helping them change their leadership, then maybe so many people wouldn't want to flee. And then they wouldn't have to try to come here all the time, which is actually a good thing. We don't want these people here. We need our jobs for Americans. We don't need foreigners coming here to undercut us. They can stay where they're at. And, you know, people keep saying, oh, but Rico, the immigrants are what make America special. And I'm like, really? Well, maybe America has had a monopoly on immigration for too long. Maybe we should spread the wealth. Maybe it's time for us to share the immigrants with other countries, which is what we're doing now. And if you're an illegal and you're arrested here, we won't just send you to El Salvador. We can send you to South Sudan. Maybe you can make these other places just as great as you made the United States. I mean, if that's what the sauce is, if the illegal immigrants are the sauce of what makes America great, then they should be able to repeat the same results anywhere they go, right? If what you're saying is correct, then anywhere they go, they can turn it into America. Because all you just need is a bunch of immigrants in 20 years, and then you got the United States just on repeat. So that's why we're going to spread the wealth. So consider this again. This is just more us just doing goodwill to the world. Call it an extended Christmas gift. Call it whatever you want to, but that's where we're giving back to the world.
This is a new day for the U.S. relations in Latin America, with President Trump asserting dominance and doing a snatch and grab operation. Will this encourage other leaders around the world to do the same with their enemies? And will it make the United States, which in theory defends democracy and human rights, seem hypocritical?
You've been listening to Richard Engel, our chief foreign correspondent. Richard, you were talking with me about the oil reserves in Venezuela. Their reserves, number one, the largest in the...
No, it started during Chavez. You're right, but Maduro kept it going. He didn't go 180. He's keeping it status quo. So but you are correct. It did initially start with Chavez destroying the currency.
The world believed to be roughly 300 billion barrels by some assessments, accounting for approaching 20% of the global supply there in Venezuela. You'll remember after the U.S. recently seized one of the...
Jesus Christ, you think my chat is a little spicy today with a bunch of angry, melanated folks? Look at Myron's. Jesus. Consistently unhappy with everything. I guess that's just like a part of their culture. Being here in the United States, being disgruntled. That's crazy. It's not just my chat. It's over there on Myron's chat too. They're like spamming him, and he's not even sitting in his chair. That is hilarious. What a coincidence, huh? The usual suspects everywhere you go.
He sanctioned oil tankers, as the White House described it. The president said that it was his belief that the U.S. would then seize that oil, would keep that oil. That tanker was then routed to the United States, specifically to Texas. Keir Simmons is our chief international correspondent. He's been watching.
Well, it's not the United States is in another country's business. That's our business. Venezuela is in our backyard. They're a part of our hemisphere. What happens in South America affects Central and North America. They were already looking to make agreements with the Chinese and the Russians about setting up ports, and they were already exporting their oil to China. We can't allow that. We have to be in control of everything in our hemisphere. This is our hemisphere. We're a tripolar world now, not unipolar. So we don't have to be the world police, but we're going to just have to police our front and backyard. Venezuela is a part of our backyard. Also, Maduro, during Biden's open border, he emptied out his insane asylums, his prisons. They sent us their rapists, their murderers. They sent us the worst of the worst people to the United States on purpose. And they made agreements with these people that they can keep their freedom as long as they promise to never return to these countries like Venezuela, which is why when they are arrested over here and deported, Venezuela is saying, no, we're not taking these people back. Their own citizens. It's because that was a part of the deal as far as their release, when they're released from prison. So this is all documented. And for us, them sending these evil people to our country is damn near a declaration of war. It's a declaration of war. So we have to get in there and we have to change what's going on in Venezuela because it's affecting us here in the United States. So it is our business.
This developing news with us as well. And Keir, quickly to you, I want to share a statement from the Russian Foreign Ministry. Vladimir Putin's the Kremlin now reacting to this, saying that the United States committed, in its words, an act of armed aggression against Venezuela that it said was both deeply concerning and
the Canadians don't have the ability to do business with these other countries. 99% of all Canadian exports come to the United States. We are their biggest and only customer right now. The United States, without Canada, the United States, we supplement the economy of Canada. We literally prop up their government to the tune of about $250 billion per year. That's why we took it as disrespect when Ford, the premier of Ottawa, what is that? Is that Alberta? When he had all these disparaging remarks about the United States and Trump, but we literally feed you fuckers. Without us, you don't have an economy. So what Trump said is that us giving you $250 billion a year, it doesn't make sense for us fiscally anymore. So this is what we can do. We can make you a state, and then your premier can be a governor. And that's kind of the best we can do. You can take it or leave it. And now the Canadian provinces are like, look, we'd rather join the United States than stay here in Canada. We don't want to be a part of Canada no more. And that's happening. Whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not, if you don't fucking like it, leave. Leave. Crying on the internet, why don't you just move somewhere else? Move somewhere that you do like. But that's how it's going to be. And that's what's happening.
Condemnable. That is notable because while on the one hand, the U.S. has been focused heavily in this region on Venezuela, the president and his team simultaneously have been focused on trying to bring about an end to the war between Russia and Ukraine. Vladimir Putin, for a variety of reasons.
What country do you live in? The United States, our farmers are just fine without the Canadians. Why, bro, where did these people come from with this nonsense? It's hilarious.
Reasons over the course of many months has been disinclined, it appears, to resolve the situation there. We have heard from Volodymyr Zelensky, who has also been very...
Yeah, but we're reopening our own lumber mills. We're reopening them. Look it up. We are reopening our own lumber mills. We shut our lumber mills down because we were importing from Canada to justify why we're sending them $250 billion a year. America first and America only means Americans first. So if you're not an American, your economy and your society is not on our top 10 priority list anymore. It's America first, and then it's America second, it's America third, it's Americans in America fourth, fifth, and so on. And the world is going to have to just learn to live with that. That's just how it's going to be. And now, unfortunately, that goes for our friends to the north. And I wouldn't really say Canadians are really our friends. They're not. They live in a different society than us. Remember what they did during the lockdown. Remember, they forced people to take those shots. They wouldn't let you go places. It was completely mandatory. Remember, Justin Trudeau was a dictator. Remember what they did to the truckers? Froze their bank accounts. And if you donated money to them, they froze your account too. When they were trying to reopen the country and they were literally just expressing their free speech rights by just riding in convoys and just occupying their cities when they were shut down, completely destroying everyone's businesses. I have so many friends in Canada that are dying right now. I remember when they started building those camps, the same kind of concentration camps they built in Australia. They literally completed building them in Canada. They're putting people in them too. And now look, the Somalian gangs have literally been imported into Canada from Thunder Bay to Alberta. From Thunder Bay to Edmonton to Calgary to Vancouver in the West. All these places are being overrun. These places are gone anyway. The best thing these countries, the country of Canada can do is join the United States. But we don't really want all of Canada, just the valuable parts. We don't really need the UP because we have Alaska. We don't need, I'll be honest, Saskatchewan. It's good farmland, but it's Regina is nice, but the rest, like I said, north of Minnesota, Detroit. I guess we could take. I mean Toronto, maybe, but a lot of that is just wasted open land that we really don't need. There's only certain parts of Canada that are valuable, and luckily for us, those parts of Canada already have a referendum in play right now, where they're going to Ottawa and they're going to say, hey, we want to separate and become our own independent country. And then from there, they can join as a state. There's a whole process to this that's like already in motion. Like this is already happening. This is not theoretical anymore. It's happening right now. Who just did a story about it? I think it was on Redacted. And George A.A., he just did a whole thing about Canada and different provinces that are joining the United States. So I guess this is already, I mean, just because you don't know about it, it doesn't mean this is misinformation. You just didn't know. There's a difference. You're not even trying to keep up with all this. This is this is kind of what I do. It's my job to know so I can get here and explain it to you what's going on. So.
Reluctant to give up land in that country, but this does infuse a new wrinkle into another global hotspot, which is Russia as well.
Yeah, I've been reading that statement too, Peter, and I've been reflecting that this is why Richard Engel describes this as such a significant moment, is that what you have overnight is the US striking a Russian partner. Maduro was, a de facto ally of President Putin, and President Trump has just taken him out. So you have that aspect. And on the other hand, you have President Putin now offering his diplomacy, if you like, to try to stabilize the situation.
Yes, the concentration camps in Australia, were you not familiar that they had those? Matter of fact, let's see here. Let's ask Arthur. What's the name of those camps? Hey Arthur, what's the name of those camps that was built in Australia in the outback, where they were taking the Aboriginals in for quarantine for COVID? What was the name of that the big camp that they built in Australia?
Certainly. You're likely referring to the Howard Springs quarantine facility. This was a well-known quarantine center in the Northern Territory of Australia, near Darwin, which was used during the COVID-19 pandemic for quarantine purposes. It was not specifically built to target Aboriginal people, but it did become a central facility for quarantining individuals, including remote Indigenous community members.
Question, how many people that were Indigenous were there versus people that were transported there from other parts of Australia?
I don't have an exact breakdown of how many Indigenous versus non-Indigenous individuals were quarantined at the Howard Springs facility. The publicly available information doesn't provide a detailed demographic split on that particular question. If you need more specific data, it might require looking into government reports or other official records. Let me know if you'd like me to explore that further.
Yeah, thank you. A quick question. Did anybody ever compare Howard Springs to concentration camps? And if so, can you explain how they would parallel and what kind of points they were making as far as similarities?
Certainly. There were indeed some public discussions and criticisms that drew comparisons between the Howard Springs quarantine facility and more severe historical internment or concentration camps. These comparisons typically came from critics who were concerned about the restrictive nature of the quarantine measures. In general, the parallels they drew focused on a few key points. Restriction of movement. Critics argue that individuals, including Indigenous Australians, were effectively confined and unable to leave, which they felt echoed historical internment practices. Involuntary relocation. Some noted that people were moved from their communities to the facility, and although it was done for public health reasons, the enforced nature of the relocation drew comparisons to historical camps. Cultural sensitivity. There were concerns about the impact on Indigenous communities and whether the measures took into account cultural factors which Some critics argued made the approach feel heavy-handed. It's important to note that these comparisons were controversial and not universally accepted. Many saw Howard Springs as a necessary public health measure during a pandemic, rather than something comparable to a concentration camp. But the debate did exist, especially among those particularly concerned about civil liberties and the treatment of indigenous Australians.
I appreciate it, Albert. Arthur. Thank you very much. I'll be back. Again, just because you don't know about it doesn't mean it's misinformation. You just didn't know. So for your own records, it was called Howard Springs. Look it up. And if you don't want to listen to me and my co-host, Arthur, go read for yourself. You don't have to ask me. Don't let me be the, I'm not your, don't let me be your beacon of truth. If you want to seek other sources, seek and ye shall find, right?
Effectively, you have President Putin saying, okay, we have a problem in your region, Mr. Trump. Let me help you to solve that. Sounds familiar. And it is therefore significant because it gives the Russians the ability to kind of say, well, look, you see, this happens everywhere, and we help each other to solve it. So you can see how there are multiple dimensions to this, and the implications and the impact of it we will only know in the months ahead. But there's another aspect to this too, Peter, and I think it's really fascinating, and people will be talking about this again as we look ahead, is that what you have here is very familiar, which is the U.S. intervening in another country to potentially bring about, you might even say, and the Trump administration isn't saying this clearly, and there's a reason why perhaps they're not quite saying it this way, but maybe even to try and bring about democracy, but certainly intervening. And that is something that we have seen before from the U.S., and Richard has been very carefully navigating those questions over whether it really works. And there is plenty of history to suggest that it does not. And then there are some.
Okay, Scorpion, what if you're right? What if it's a uniparty? Then what? What are you going to do? You going to move to Nigeria? You're going to move to Ghana? What's your plan? Say you're correct and it's a uniparty. What's your next move? Let us know in the chat.
Examples of moments when it has made a difference. And all of this is happening while there are protests in Iran effectively looking to overthrow the regime there. And those protests are the most significant.
Yeah, what's your next move? What's your plan? If it's a uniparty, what are you going to do about it? And shout out to Wavioli 9492. You've been rocking with me for over 2.5 hours, bro. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. Stay tuned.
Since some years ago, the uprising over the killing of a young woman in Iran. So too, there is a threat to that regime. And of course, Iran is a close partner to Venezuela. So this is, there are moving parts here, and there is no doubt of the significance.
You're right, Kieran. In the president's victory speech upon winning the last election, he said, I'm not going to start wars. I'm going.
But if it's a uniparty, then that means no matter who you vote for, it's the same. So what are you going to do? Are you going to stay under the uniparty, or are you going to leave? What's your game plan? Like, what is your, is the only thing you're going to do is just like complain about it, or you're going to change where you're at? Like, what is your game plan? If you're correct.
To stop wars, we're now hearing some of the criticism coming in from some of the president's political opponents. Among them, we're hearing from one of the top national security officials who served beneath President Obama during his time in office. That's Ben Rhodes, who says in simple terms, he says,
and God bless you, Ruth, as well. Thank you, brother. I'm glad you're here.
Regime.
Well, Ruth, not Ruth's brother, but I'm glad you're here.
Regime change war in Latin America based on absurd rationales about drug trafficking, no explanation of goals, and counter to everything Trump promised.
How do you plan on doing that, Scorpion? How do you plan on getting money out of politics? I don't understand why. I mean, you don't want to just go find a better country that's not uniparty. If the uniparty is your biggest problem that you're upset about, why wouldn't you just find a better country?
campaigning, and we're not even a full year into Trump's term.
This is an NBC News special report.
Sorry about that, guys. I'm back.
Good day to you. I'm Peter Alexander here in New York.
Well, when Biden was in office, I left the country because I didn't agree with the mask mandates. I didn't agree with the vaccine mandates. Remember, if you worked for a company with more than 99 employees, you had to take an experimental medical procedure that's irreversible, or you would be losing your job. So first I left California when they went communist, and when it seemed like our American government was going communist and fascistic by trying to force you to do experimental medical procedures that were deadly, I decided to evacuate. So I left the country. I only came back actually in September last year when it looked like Kamala wasn't going to win, because I listened to a lot of people, like the people in the chat, some of these people that would just lie and pretend that this lady actually had a platform. Like people like, oh yeah, Kamala, this and this. I'm like, okay, cool. What is she offering you? Like, what policies of hers do you like? And these moronic idiot leftists would just get mad and storm off, or they wouldn't want to talk. And I'm like, so you mean to tell me you don't even know anything about what she's offering or her policies or anything? You just like her because of how she looks? So you're treating Kamala like a stripper, because the reason you pick which stripper you're going to give $1 bills to and to shove it in their butt crack is based on how she looks. So you mean to tell me your threshold for who you want to be the leader of the free world is the same one you use when deciding on who you want to come gyrate on your crotch? And I knew I couldn't take you people seriously anymore at that point, because you were only worried about how she looks, which is fucking ridiculous. You shouldn't want to be in love with your politicians. You should be negotiating with them. You don't know them. They don't know you. They don't love you. They're not supposed to love you. This is a negotiation. This is business. You guys are emotional. That's why you guys are at the bottom and nobody takes you seriously. And me especially. I especially don't take you seriously.
With a dramatic developing situation.
Smash that like button, guys. Just found out that I'm 100% shadow banned on YouTube as expected. I already knew, bitch ass niggas. I fucking hate YouTube with a passion, bro. I hate YouTube, man. Fucking hate this platform. Smash.
Well, I personally like YouTube still. So smash the like button, guys. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Hopefully the YouTube gods don't get too mad at me for platforming Myron. Matter of fact, let's see here. If he's watching NBC, we can watch our own NBC. Let's see here. Where is it at? Is this the NBC? This is Mirror. ABC. Let me go down to Maduro. Let's go here.
Use the word lethality. Battleships are the largest, sturdiest, and most heavily armed vessel built specifically for naval combat. While America has built many new warships over the years, they've tended to be smaller.
Wavioli, if you want to have a conversation, I can send you the link and you can come up and we can talk. Are you willing to do that? If you want to talk so bad, why don't you come up on the stage?
Much smaller. Going to be upping that also. We're going to be going to a...
Absolutely. Taking AIPAC money should be illegal. I agree with you on that, Scorpion. You know, Scorpion, you're actually not a bot. I can actually talk to you. Some people just make blanket statements. You actually have real suggestions. I like that.
Superior, the most lethal surface warfare ships. It will be actually the most ever built other than our submarines. We have submarines which will have, in many ways, even more lethality, and we have many of them under construction. Each one of these will be the largest battleship in the history of our country, the largest battleship in the history of the world ever built. And again, it's 100 times more powerful than the previous Iowa class, it's called. Those are the big ones that you'd see on a show. Victory at Sea. I don't know if anyone's seen Victory at Sea, but it was a classic. They'll help maintain American military supremacy, revive the American shipbuilding industry, and inspire fear in America's enemies all over the world. We want respect. We're going to have it. We already have it. More respected now than we ever were. A year and a half ago, they laughed at us. Now they respect us again at levels that they've never respected us. We envision that these two ships, we're talking about 10, but we're going to start with 2, and we're going to quickly morph into 10. And ultimately, we think it's going to be anywhere from 20 to 25 of these. But we're starting with the first 2 immediately, and we're going to then be very quickly involved with, I think, we're going to do another 8. And then we're going to ultimately and pretty quickly have a total of about 20 to 25. We'll make that determination. We envision that these ships will be the first of a whole new class of battleships to be produced in the years to come. From Theodore Roosevelt, the Great White Fleet, you remember that, the Great White Fleet, to the legendary USS Missouri, whose massive guns helped win World War II. America's back.
Yeah, she when the teleprompters were gone, so did her speech, so did her brain. Literally, she's one of those people that you have to tell her what to do. So obviously she's controlled, she's for sale. She had none of her own thoughts or anything, none of her own opinions. And now they want her to take over being the governor of California after Newsom literally just destroyed my home state. Now they want to put somebody else in there to finish the job. And she'd be more than happy to do so. So it's just crazy. Again, voting for politicians, well, the same way you're voting for a stripper is insanity. But that's what's been happening with a lot of these folks. So it's a shame that that's the path that our country is literally suffering and going down. But there's hope. There's light at the end of the tunnel. We will prevail. We will win in the end.
Clear that we're building them here. We're working with others, but we're building them here. We have great Navy yards. We'll be negotiating with some of the companies that are running.
Oh yeah, West Covina is about 30 minutes from me because I live downtown. But I know West Covina, you guys are off the 10, but you're also off of the 605, I think, the West Covina. So 605 or the 10, it depends on which part of West Covina you want to go to. But yeah, I know West Covina. It's not too far from where I'm from.
Those yards, taking over the yards. We used to build a ship a day during World War II. Now we don't do ships very much anymore. We do military ships. We do submarines. By the way, we're 15 to 20 years advanced in our...
Hey, a lot of West Covina people in the house. Look, we have a lot of new people here tonight. Please subscribe to the channel. Just hit that button right there. Like the video. It pushes me out into the algorithm. I have tons of content that it's already been done. I'm doing more content tomorrow, every day, talking about different topics from a right-wing angle, obviously. But please, if you guys can tune in and support, I appreciate you guys being here, joining the conversation, engaging in the chat. You guys have been great, so I appreciate you guys.
Laser in the world will be on the battleships that we're building. They'll also carry the nuclear arms, sea-launched cruise missiles.
Oh, I had a couple of my friends went to Covina High School, actually. I went to school in Cerritos, so I went to GAR, but I also went to Compton High School for a little while. I went to Crenshaw for a little while. So I was all over LA area, but West Covina is it's like right outside the city. My ex-girlfriend's from West Covina. A lot of my friends, actually a couple of my friends that moved out of LA, they moved to West Covina because they didn't want to go all the way to the Inland Empire, to the IE, but they didn't want to be too close to the city. So West Covina is like a happy median, and it's actually a nice area. It's a really nice city. So, because you're out there by La Puente, and there's like these other cities that are out there that are also like good areas too to live in. So
today's announcement is yet another step in our mission to make the United States Navy stronger than ever before. Again, when you talk about 100 times the power of these massive ships that we had years ago, it's pretty amazing. And next week, I'm going to meet with the defense prime contractors. I'm going to meet with them here, Florida. And we're going to be talking about production schedules because they're too slow.
That's funny. You went to Baldwin Park High School. I actually was at the Baldwin Park Animal Shelter. One of my dogs here, she was at that shelter, and I pulled her from there because I do volunteer work with like rescues. I do like fostering and transport. I have like a nonprofit where I would just help people with adoption logistics because, we have shelters that are full in California and we have really good networking in California, but people in other states are like, hey, I want to adopt that dog. And nobody would ever respond to their comments in the chat asking for help. So I just set up my own little logistics network and I would say, okay, hey, I know a transport, I know a boarding facility. I can pull the dog for you, put them in boarding. You set up the transport and just get them there. That way they don't got to die in the shelter. And Baldwin Park is a really big shelter I used to always work with when I lived in California. It's unfortunate that I had to leave California during the lockdown, but I was doing rescue work and helping out, from Carson Shelter to Baldwin Park to all these different, to Riverside, San Bernardino, all over. So that's crazy.
So we'll be talking about all CapEx, dividends, and the pay. We're also going to be talking about buybacks. They spend so much money on buybacks. They want to.
Yep, El Monte. That's another big city. So I say La Puente, but also El Monte. That's actually another nice city also to live in too. Anything, because you don't want to go to San Bernardino. I mean, you don't want to go to Ontario. You don't want to go all the way to Fontucky. You don't want to go to, Rialto or anything like that. So you don't want to go all the way to the IE. But like if you can, but before you get to Pomona and these other cities, there are some nice cities. Like we have tons of cities in Southern California. Like there's like just people everywhere in cities and like, people in other states don't understand. Like California is home. It's just, like I said, it just got so bad with the whole lockdown. And I lived in downtown. I lived right there on 7th and Spring, right across from LA Cafe. So seeing crackheads with masks on every day. And then they defunded. There's no police in LA anymore. So it just got too dangerous. So I had to evacuate.
Spending money on building airplanes and ships.
Yeah, my grandparents lived in San Dimas. So I used to live in San Dimas. I used to go there every weekend, stay out there. Raging Waters used to be a big deal when I was a kid in San Dimas. And that's why, then there was like a cemetery right there by the exit. San Dimas is actually still a nice city. It's still a nice area, actually. Lots of hills. So we used to ride bikes and you go up a hill, down. It was exhausting sometimes.
And the things that we need, not in 10 years and 15 years, we need them now. And we're strong about it. Last week, the Navy announced a brand new class of frigate, and they're going to be working with the South Korean company. Hanwha, a good company, recently agreed to invest $5 billion in Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. We're opening up the Philadelphia Shipyard, once a great yard. Now it was a long time ago decommissioned, but now it's reopening. Working with the Navy and working with private companies. The record-setting defense bill I signed last week authorized $26 billion to build new ships, including destroyers and various others. We already have a lot of submarines, as you know, under construction. We're building a lot of submarines. I tell you, to be exact, we have right now 15 submarines under construction or ready to start. And we have, again, the greatest submarine in the world with our technology, like they talk about chips. Well, I would say submarines are a bigger deal than chips. We're at least 15 years ahead of any other competitor. China, Russia, nobody can come close. We're also building right now 3 large aircraft carriers in addition to the ones we have. And we have actually.
Let's see here. Myron Mirror. Where's NBC News on this? Okay. NBC Venezuela. Live.
On the strikes and beyond what appears to be providing a lift to law enforcement and other U.S. officials as part of this picking up Maduro and his wife, what other component, what other part did the U.S. military play? And we just don't have an answer to that at this point, Peter.
Courtney Kuby covers the Pentagon for us right now. I want to share some other information while you, Courtney, have been speaking.
Wavioli, I've been engaging with you for hours. I even offered you a chance to come up on stage and you didn't want to. So that's why I can't really, I've already tried it. I've already tried to get you to come up to the stage and engage. But you seem like you're unhinged. And then you're literally here in my chat and you're trying to tell people what not to do, what to do. And I'll be honest, that is a little bit crossing the line a little bit. I'm going to tolerate it for now, but I don't think you should be doing that because I'm not in your page saying stuff like that.
Again, as we're monitoring the situation there, as we try to get a better understanding of Nicolás Maduro's whereabouts and the evolving situation there. The New York Times posting a short time ago that it has spoken to President Trump early this morning, where in its words, it celebrated the success of the mission to capture the Venezuelan president. They quote President Trump saying, "A lot of good planning and a lot of great, great troops and great people," he said. He said it.
I don't have an uncle named Tom. I have an uncle named Tommy. I don't know anybody named Tom. And I don't, who's a pedophile? Like, who, show me post the link of the person Trump was convicted of hurting or touching. If you can post some proof, then we'll take you seriously. But if not, you're just lying on here and you're just making up BS and you're projecting your personal life into Trump. A lot of people with TDS do that. Like everything that they're guilty of, they always project it onto Trump. The left is really good for that. You guys are really good at accusing others of doing what you're guilty of doing. And we've proven that time and time again. So when you start making these claims about Trump, I know you're talking about yourself. And in that case, my guy, you need help.
Was a brilliant operation, actually. The Times asked him if he had sought congressional authority.
I wouldn't say the oil field was stolen. It was conquered. We literally conquered and captured Maduro, and we extracted him successfully without killing him. And now Venezuela's oil belongs to us. And we'll help invigorate their economy. And the practices of the days of Chavez and Maduro, those will be in the past. The Venezuelan people have welcomed us into Venezuela. They're cheering. They're happy. They want to see change. They want their country back too. And we want them to have their country back so they can go the fuck back. We don't want them staying here in our country, taking our jobs. We want them to go home and make Venezuela great again. Because at one time, Venezuela was great. Beautiful people, beautiful, they're great culture, really conservative people, family oriented. They just, unfortunately, you can vote your way into communism. You just can't vote your way out. So that's why, because they couldn't vote their way out of this situation with Maduro, the Americans are here to be of assistance. And we successfully assisted the Venezuelan people. Today is their Freedom Day. They now have their country back. They're welcome.
For the operation, or what is next for Venezuela? And when asked that question, the president said he would address those matters during a news conference to take place at Mar-a-Lago this morning, his private club there in Florida. The president announcing earlier that would take place.
Yeah, but these are American companies. The companies are us. These companies are here. These companies employ my people. So they're us.
At roughly 11 a.m. Eastern time. We should also tell you that Venezuela's vice president there has spoken on state-run television after the president's post this morning saying that Nicolás Maduro's location was unknown and that she was asking President Trump for proof of life. Again, it raises real questions about the governance of that country in this time with what the president describes as a massive armada of 15,000 American troops, forces off the coast of that country. I want to bring in now the NBC News military.
I mean, Trump did give them a heads up, but this is one of those, fuck around and find out moments. You think it's a game. You think it's a joke. You think we're not serious because we were never serious before. These are new times. America's on a new trajectory. We are going to be respected again, and people will appreciate what we're doing. That's why I said I don't think the goal is to harm Maduro. I don't know if changing him for somebody else or teaching him a lesson and putting him back where he was and letting them know that we can take you whenever we want to and there's no way you can run from us. Because maybe the Russians and the Chinese got in his ear and told him they got his back. and they can protect him and offer him security guarantees. How? You're in our backyard. You can get down or you can lay down. But if you lay down, you're going to stay down. And right now, Maduro is laying down, but he's still alive. So, again, you got to be grateful for what you can.
Analyst, the Colonel Steve Warren, who is joining us this morning. Colonel Warren, Happy New Year. We are off to the races as we begin this new year again. The president wasting no time at this.
They're saying she will be they're saying Corina Machado will replace him. Maybe she'll replace him. I don't know. I'm like, why are they keeping him alive? I mean, they could have just dusted him off, but they didn't. I think that they're going to I think they're going to put Maduro back in place somehow. I don't think they did all this just to put him in a dungeon somewhere to just rot. I think they're going to. I think if Trump's a strategic person who's into making deals and he wants to prove a point to the world, I think Maduro's going to still be in play. I don't know. I just got a feeling that's going to happen. But, only time will tell, but we can always come back to these videos. I mean, I'm going to be doing them every day, talking about these different topics. So we'll see. We'll see how we'll see where the chips fall.
Start of the year and his pressure campaign against Nicolás Maduro, ultimately, as he said this morning, capturing him and his wife, taking them out of the country. Unclear if this was a negotiated exit. But as the Republican Senator Mike Lee said, the strikes that we saw early this morning were done in effect to protect the executing of that arrest warrant, the effort by those forces to pick him up. I know you haven't been involved, obviously, in what's taking place there, but give us
Exactly, like they did to Noriega in Panama. But remember, with Noriega, they drug it out too. They drug it out. It was, and also, but see, Noriega was partners with the CIA. And we funded Noriega as well. I don't think we were ever partners with Maduro. So I don't think I don't know. I don't think he's involved with our intelligence agencies. I believe this is just more so administration versus in one administration. I think Venezuela flirting with China and Russia, it made us jealous. And we had to make sure that there was not going to be any formal declarations where they were going to put any kind of bases or something in our hemisphere that we don't control. I mean, we took back the Panama Canal because the Panamanians were selling it to the Chinese. We took it back. This is our hemisphere. This is our territory from Greenland to Argentina, from freaking from Greenland to Argentina. This is our territory.
Sense about how something like this would be conducted, how challenging it is, and what considerations would have gone into place in advance of a dramatic capture operation like this?
Peter, often our more elite, what we call the tier one, so this is our most elite special forces, often our tier one special forces will operate in conjunction with many other agencies throughout the government, whether it's the CIA, as we may likely have seen in that initial potential ground strike, that first ground strike we saw several days ago, or often law enforcement agencies. It is not uncommon for the tier one special operators to work with.
Look at that. Look at our helicopters. 15 of them. I mean, there's like a dozen of them flying. No air defense systems. No one's shooting at them. No one's trying to save Maduro. They wanted him out too. Bro, he destroyed their country and he kept their economy in shambles. And then also he's not even recognized because they didn't really do elections. It was a big fraud, kind of like our elections, right? So the people wanted him gone too. But notice how there's no air defense batteries shooting up, and they've had weeks to prepare for this. They knew this was coming. They have a military that's fully capable. They didn't even try to engage. They just let us take off with their leader, which is crazy.
with law enforcement agencies, particularly, we did this, I think, fairly regularly during the Iraq, Afghanistan conflict. So our special forces operations and our more elite law enforcement operators are familiar with working with each other. Now, as far as how an operation like this,
Bro, why do you want to engage with me all of a sudden? If I'm so bad, Ravioli, if I'm so bad and you don't want people to follow me, why do you want to engage with me? Why don't you just fuck off? Like, why are you here if I'm so bad? Why do you want to talk to me? If you can explain that to me, then we can talk.
Comes together. It's an extraordinary and complicated thing to do, and real praise to our soldiers and sailors and law enforcement officials who were able to pull this off. So far, we haven't received any reports of U.S. casualties, which is an extraordinary thing, and we're really proud of our men and women who executed it. But it takes there's sort of several layers, and Courtney Kube referenced it a little bit just moments ago. Initially, you have to ensure that you have the ability to get our aircraft into the target area without being shot down. So we have to execute what we call the suppression of enemy air defenses. So that could be some of the early explosions that we saw, as Courtney mentioned, as our correspondent Courtney Kube mentioned, possibly the use of tomahawks or other.
Like the page, guys. Hit the subscribe button. Like the video. I appreciate you guys all tuning in. I'm trying to bring you live coverage of the capture and extraction of President Maduro from Venezuela last night, and our glorious president basically talking a bunch of shit about it. We were just listening to him, and the guy is hilarious, but he did say what was going to happen, and it's now happened. So he's a man of his word. So now we're sitting here watching the aftermath, looking at all the beautiful lights and explosions from all the blasts. Very interesting. But it's a very calm country right now, and this is their capital. Nobody put up a resistance because nobody wanted him there. They wanted him gone too. So we've liberated Venezuela. Cheers to them. Salud.
Remote capabilities to damage or destroy air defense radars and air.
Isabella, please keep your comments about Trump's flaccid penis to yourself, and whatever you eat for breakfast. If it's flaccid, that's nothing to do with us. We don't really need that in the chat.
Defense launchers, right? So that's the initial execution. The next thing we like to try and do is isolate. So
if Trump and his allies confiscated their gold holdings, then good for them. The way it works in life is to the winner goes the spoils. In the real world, there are no participation trophies. There's no second place. There's no to the winner goes the spoils. You cry all you want, but if you lost, you lost. That's it. There's no crying in baseball.
We've suppressed air defense. We then try to isolate the target area. In this case, apparently we somehow knew where Nicolás Maduro and his wife were. It's unclear whether that was because we had spoken with them. We don't know how we knew this, but somehow we knew where Maduro may well have been, and we isolated that area. That can be done, again, through remote capabilities, or it could be done with actual troops on the ground to provide what we call security. And then finally, special forces operators along.
Yeah, we're not a democracy, Isabella. You're mistaken. You might want to go back to your home country. They are a democracy. We are a constitutional republic, and we will stay a constitutional republic. If you're looking for a multicultural democracy, you might want to find somewhere else to live, because that place only exists in your imagination. Here, you're under a constitutional republic, and we're not a democracy. We've never been a democracy. We will never be a democracy. So you're probably in the wrong place.
Most likely with some sort of federal law enforcement, whether it's a marshal or FBI. At this point, we don't know. But after suppression,
Maduro's actually in custody. So in the coming days, his administration is going to fall apart. There will be an interim person to take his place, and then they're going to put in Karina. It sounds like I just don't know how long before they're going to put Maduro back in play.
Of air defense, isolation of the objective area. Finally, we move in.
Potentially we did. That comes along with the territory. It happens.
And arrest the individual that we're looking for.
Colonel Warren, I want to get a better understanding, of this. Obviously, it would require some troops to touch the ground to be able to pick up Nicolás Maduro in the first place here. Obviously, 15,000 troops is not enough to secure a country like that. The president has made no indication that ground troops will be going into.
Isabella, you can't make comments like that. You have no army. You have no strength. You have no power. You have no ability to do anything except talk bullshit. So talk is cheap. So, and what they say, money talking, bullshit walks, and your shit's moonwalking. So you can say all that, but no one's worried about you. You guys have a history of just blowing smoke. You don't have a history of having results. You couldn't even save yourself, so you can't save or help anyone else either.
Venezuela in any meaningful way right now. But what sort of a challenge does this pose for the United States?
A constitutional republic is not a democracy. I'm sorry to tell you that.
Ultimately becomes less a military one, but more a diplomatic one to try to, allow that country to take the preferred fork in the road, not to return to a sort of authoritarian type regime or leader, but to focus on a more democratic led government right now. Ultimately, these are the early steps that you watch militarily, and then there are other real challenges that begin.
Some would say that these steps that we've done up until now, frankly, are the easy steps, right? We have exceptional special operators, exceptional law enforcement operators who understand how to do these types of missions, but they happen at the speed of violence very, very quickly. A lot of planning obviously went into it, but the execution happens very, very quickly. Now comes what in some people's opinions would be the very, very hard part. And we've seen this before. We saw this in Afghanistan beginning in, after 9/11. We saw.
Lady, will you stop obsessing over Trump's dick? Why do you keep talking about that? That is like the weirdest and creepiest thing. You leftists are just like weird. It's like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, you have no, why, what's with the obsession with this is gross.
This in Iraq. When a regime is toppled, when a regime changes suddenly, there's a vacuum. Now there's a little bit of a vacuum. Who's in charge? Who's running the country? We don't know this. Neither does anyone in Venezuela, it would appear, know this. So there are, of course, as in any country, there are opposing forces. There are different forces who want to be in power. Where is the military internally going to fall on this? Where are the other power centers in Venezuela?
Isabella, if you think that's true, why don't you leave and escape? Why are you still here? Why haven't you flown to another country? Why don't you escape? Why are you subjugating yourself? Explain.
Going to fall on this. Where are the other legitimate and somewhat powerful drug cartels who are operating in that country, as we've talked about, as the president has talked about? Those cartels are still.
Howard, that is correct.
They're still functioning. We've struck some of their boats, but that's about it. So these cartels are still there. They're still strong. They're still functioning. The military, we have not, unlike what we did in Afghanistan or what we did in Iraq, we have not, frankly, inflicted any significant damage on the Venezuelan military. So what are they going to do now?
Absolutely, we should. We should all be praying for our president and for our nation and for our future. We all are not, but we all should be. So I definitely agree with you, Beto. Definitely, BOD.
Is certainly a question, I think, on everyone's mind.
Colonel Steve Warren is an NBC News military analyst. Colonel Warren, we appreciate your expertise in helping us better understand the situation that's still evolving.
It's not dumb. It's actually a legit suggestion. It just lets you know that you have more options than you give yourself credit for. Maybe you don't know that you can go somewhere else, so maybe you need someone to tell you that you can. So that's why I'm here. So just in case you didn't know, in case you thought you were stuck here, there's no locks at the airport. You can freely go and fly the hell out and never come back. And you don't have to worry about Trump. You don't have to worry about ICE. You don't have to worry about white people or anything. You can just get away from everything that you hate. Don't you guys hate those things? So why do you want to live around them? It's a good suggestion when I'm saying you should relocate, and escape. Escape. This is horrible, right? This is torture. Escape. Be free. Go be free.
Involving on the ground there in Caracas, Venezuela, as again, hopefully we can put up another picture to show our viewers the situation there. It's a new day, a new dawn in many ways, and it's one that begins without the longtime president of that country, the authoritarian leader Nicolás Maduro, who's now been captured and taken out of the country alongside his wife, according to the president, by U.S. forces. I want to get to our...
Well, thank you for the compliment. Levitate, it is my Scientology training, which helps me do so.
Our chief foreign correspondent, again, Richard Engel, who's been watching this news developing right now. Richard, among the questions that the president will surely be asked at a news conference to take place about 5 hours from now at Mar-a-Lago is whether he had any conversation.
Well, Blinks, that is your opinion, but our immigration laws are immigration laws. If you don't agree with them, then, that's tough titty.
With Maduro in recent days. Maduro told a Spanish journalist only a couple of days ago that he was open to, in effect, discussions, conversations, perhaps even negotiations with the United States. We wait for those answers. We wait to learn where Maduro is right now. But it also raises real questions about what happens next in that country and what it...
Well, then carry on, Blinks. If you feel like what you're doing is noble, don't let me stop you.
Does in terms of the president's desire to sort of crack down on that narco-terrorist state, with so much of the regime still, as evidenced by the public statements coming out of the country, remaining in effect, whether in power, certainly in its positions, though it's unclear who really is in power there.
This is a regime change operation. The government has been decapitated. There clearly was a degree of coordination, unclear with Maduro himself. Not full coordination with Maduro himself. If he wanted to, he could have fled the country. He could have gone to a friendly country. He has some good personal relations with the president of Turkey. He has decent relations with Russia. He's had good relations with Cuba, or even.
We can do that too, Blink. We can try making you. That's a possibility. But actually, what we prefer is we have these things called boxes, right? Some of them are made of pine, some are made of metal, some are made of metal, and we can just put you in one of those, and then you can stay.
Even Colombia, there are places where if he had wanted to go, he could have gone. So
but you stay at your own risk. You are an adversary, and you're a radical, and you're anti-American, so it's not going to be comfortable.
Clearly wasn't a surrender. This was a capture. And as we talked about earlier, this helicopter extraction was supported by...
I mean, I don't know, Blinks, you're the one that's here. So now I'm stuck with me, right? I mean, even when this is over, I'm still here with me. You have the option to, I don't know, change the channel. So you tell me why you're listening to. I have no idea. I'm open. I want to hear it all.
A military operation, whether it was tomahawks or airstrikes or a combination of both. There was suppressive fire used to protect U.S. personnel during this extraction.
It sounds like Venezuelan intelligentsia if they're running the nation, it's because they also wanted him gone as well. So they probably already built an infrastructure. They probably knew this was imminent. And they're not going to just collapse. They probably already have somebody by the morning that's ready to open up and actually start reversing some of these policies and start getting money back into their economy.
Operation. Now, as you talked earlier about this may be the easy part. Of course, it's not easy. Only a few countries in the world, perhaps only the United States, has this kind of capability. But now, who is going to run the country? Was this President Trump's perhaps greatest military accomplishment? A bloodless regime change operation against an illegitimate dictator who ran a mafia state. If there's a successful, quick democratic transition and the legitimate opposition, which won the last elections, which were then stolen from them, if they are able to come into power, work out a working relationship with the existing Venezuelan military, then this will be a great success. If, however, the military divides, a new strong man who is potentially anti-United States emerges in power, the country descends into civil war, then this will be perhaps President Trump's greatest failure. He clearly is hoping for the latter, and I know a lot of back-channel negotiations have been involved in this. I've been talking to some of the negotiators who were working with Trump administration officials. And there are many Trump administration officials who have interests here. President Trump's interest, as he's made clear, was always the drugs, to stop the drug trade, and he's interested in Venezuela's oil. He's made that clear. Venezuela has enormous oil reserves. And he was critical when the United States went into Iraq that the United States didn't take the oil. Marco Rubio himself, coming up in Latin American politics, anti-Cuban platform, has an interest in regime change in Venezuela.
Yeah, there's definitely some damage on the ground. Yeah, we definitely kicked some ass. Now, I'm pretty sure these strikes were strategic. Maybe they had batteries, maybe they had weapons, or maybe these were sites where potentially they could have had, air defense. And it seems like we promptly took those out before we engaged. We made sure that our risk was going to be minimal and also a risk to the public. These seems like I see a lot of shipping containers. So it's not like they hit, heavily populated areas. It looks to be sparsely populated, but it is next to a highway. And that's where you're seeing this footage from.
She hopes will then weaken an alliance of states that are anti-American in Latin America, including Cuba and Venezuela being the largest. You mentioned Miller, who has an immigration agenda, would want fewer migrants coming out of Venezuela, potentially Venezuela, the sea is becoming a place where migrants can go. So this is a new day for Latin America.
Right.
And the U.S. military carried an operation. We're going to hear a lot about it, how successful it was. But this is a new day for the U.S. relations in Latin America, with President Trump asserting dominance and doing a snatch and grab operation. Will this encourage other leaders around the world to do the same with their enemies? And will it make the United States, which in theory defends democracy and human rights, seem hypocritical?
You've been listening to Richard Engel, our chief foreign correspondent. Richard, you were talking with me about the oil reserves in Venezuela. Their reserves, number one, the largest in the world, believed to be roughly 300 billion barrels by some assessments, accounting for.
We need that oil. I mean, we found out the hard way that the green new scam was a bunch of bull. There is no replacing oil with solar and wind and water and heart and everything that Captain Planet used to tell you that you can power your car with. Unicorn piss and Sasquatch oil. Those aren't real things. We need that oil. We do need it, and it's already and it's a different type of oil. It's actually easier to process. They were saying there's different types of oil that come from different places, and the reserves down in Venezuela are extremely valuable. And they were cutting deals to start sending it to China when we need it over here in our hemisphere. That's why we took those shipping containers, because, well, I mean, if you're trying to send it to our enemies, then it's ours now. We're going to eat your food. But now we won't have to anymore. Now we can work out something and help this country get itself back together and get back on track. These other countries are now watching. They're on notice. They're going to have to basically understand their place when it comes to the United States in this hemisphere. This is our territory now. We're not going to be as involved in the South Pacific. We're not going to be as involved in Europe anymore. Because we can't be everywhere at once. Not anymore. And the Chinese and the Russians are too strong. So now we're a tripolar world. And in that new reality, things are just going to have to change. We're going to have to get used to them.
Approaching 20% of the global supply there in Venezuela. You'll remember after the U.S. recently seized.
We didn't steal anything. We won it. So we're not thieves. We won. We're conquerors. We conquered it. It's ours now. It's ours. It's our responsibility. To the winner goes the spoils. That doesn't mean you stole it. That means you won it. If you go to the casino and you win $5, you're going to say, oh, I stole from the casino? You'll sound like an idiot. No, you won.
Seized one of the sanctioned oil tankers, as the White House described it. The president said,
you're the Christian. You apply Christian values to yourself. You don't tell me about what values I apply to myself. You speak for yourself only.
That it was his belief that the U.S. would then seize that oil, would keep that oil. That tanker was then routed to the United States, specifically to Texas. Keir Simmons is our chief international correspondent. He's been watching this developing news with us as well.
Well, we need control over it. Remember, before Biden came into office, we were exporting energy. We were selling it. That's how much we were producing. And now we're getting back on track. But again, it's better off in our control, and we decide where it goes, than for it to be distributed to our enemies who are antithetical to the United States and our agenda.
And Keir, quickly to you, I want to share a statement from the Russian Foreign Ministry. Vladimir Putin's, the Kremlin now reacting to this, saying that the
this is a peace president. This is peaceful. It doesn't get much more peaceful than this.
United States committed, in its words, an act of armed aggression against Venezuela that it said was both deeply concerning and condemnable. That is notable because
he's not the president of Ukraine, he's not the president of Russia. However, what he did do was he pulled our resources from the Ukraine, and he didn't commit any American troops to the Ukraine. And he famously got into a big fight with J.D. Vance and Zelensky at the same in one room, and we pretty much got rid of this whole Zelensky bullshit. That's over. So that war is essentially over. We're not funding it anymore. And without that funding, it's just a matter of time before it capitulates. But that war has been over. The problem is the Russians don't want to take the entire country. They just wanted the Ukrainians to say, we're not going to make another attempt to join NATO. That's it. That's all. And then this could be over. That's it. Oh, yeah. And then the rest of the Eastern Donbass and Crimea, of course, belong to the Russians, which they belong to the Russians anyway. So there's no argument with that. So Trump did a good job, and he kept his word.
On the one hand, the U.S. has been focused heavily in this region on Venezuela. The president and his team simultaneously have been focused on trying to bring about an end to the war between Russia and Ukraine. Vladimir Putin, for a variety of reasons over the course of many months, has been disinclined, it appears, to resolve the situation there. We have heard from Volodymyr Zelensky, who has also been very reluctant to give up land in that country. But this does infuse a new wrinkle into another global hotspot, which is Russia as well.
Yeah, I've been reading that statement too, Peter, and I've been reflecting that this is why Richard Engel describes this as such a significant moment, is that what you have overnight is the U.S. striking a Russian partner. Maduro was, a de facto ally of President Putin, and President Trump has just taken him out. So you have that aspect. And on the other hand, you have President Putin now offering his diplomacy, if you like, to try to stabilize the situation. Effectively, you have President Putin saying, okay, we have a problem in your region, Mr. Trump. Let me help you to solve that.
And the fact that we have an open relationship with the Russians mean that we are receptive to their diplomacy. Maybe that could be the plan. Maybe we might turn over Maduro to the Russians and he would seek asylum in Russia, same as Bashar al-Assad from Syria, and Snowden and everybody else that goes to Russia. when they run foul of the United States. That could be another thing too. But again, the fact that Maduro and his wife are still alive says a lot about the state of where we are right now in this country. That's a huge revelation that we can't just gloss over. Now, yeah, some of you guys in the comments, you guys just hate Trump no matter what he does. You don't like anything, but you don't like anything anybody does. Now, Trump was gay and he was walking around here with, pink hair and a tutu. You guys would love that. You guys would celebrate it. You'd tell him Vogue and Slay. You guys would love that. But you don't like a man that's a patriot, that's standing up for our country and doing what has to be done. So you guys are going to complain. That's your own personal preference. As far as what's important, the important things are being handled. And this is something that's important. And I'll be honest, if this is going to be another way for us to further diplomacy and work with the Russians, then so be it. But I believe him keeping Maduro alive is going to serve a lot of different purposes. Maduro, in my opinion, is going to still be in play. I don't think he's going to just rot in prison.
Sounds familiar. And it is therefore significant because it gives the Russians the ability to kind of say, well, look, you see, this happens everywhere, and we help each other to solve it. So you can see how there are multiple dimensions to this, and the implications and the impact of it, we will only know in the months ahead. But there's another aspect to this too, Peter, and I think it's really fascinating, and people will be talking about this again.
Yeah, the Department of Defense, it should have never been called that. It should have been called the Department of War, because that's what it is. So nomenclature does matter, and now it has the correct name. So that's what it is. And $200 deal, $1 million deal to Israel, probably. That's way shy of the 3 billion or 30 billion we give them annually, but it is what it is. I mean, that relationship hopefully will come to an end soon too, once this whole situation with Bibi wraps up.
As we look ahead, is that what you have here is very familiar, which is the U.S. intervening in another country to potentially bring about, you might even say, and the Trump administration isn't saying this clearly, and there's a reason why perhaps they're not quite saying it this way, but maybe even to try and bring about democracy, but certainly intervening. And that is something that we have seen before from the U.S., and Richard has been very carefully navigating those questions over whether it really works. And there is plenty of history to suggest that it does not, and then there are some examples of moments when it has made a difference. And all of this is happening while there are protests in Iran effectively looking to overthrow the regime there. And those protests are the most significant since some years ago, the uprising over the killing of a young woman in Iran. So too, there is a threat to that regime. And of course, Iran is a close partner to Venezuela. So this is, there are moving parts here, and there is no doubt of the significance.
You're right, Kieran. In the president's victory speech upon winning the last election, he said, "I'm not going to start wars. I'm going to stop wars." We're now hearing some of the criticism coming in from some of the president's political opponents. Among them, we're hearing from one of the top national security officials who served beneath President Obama during his time in office. That's Ben Rhodes, who says, in simple terms, he says, a regime change war in Latin America based on absurd rationales about drug trafficking, no explanation of goals, and counter to everything Trump promised, campaigning, and we're not even a full year into Trump's term. And see what the domestic criticism will be of the actions taking place. Richard Engel, quickly to you, there are still, even as we watch what appears to be a successful capture operation, there is still a lot of potential complications in the days and weeks ahead.
Huge complications. Doing it a successful military extraction, like a successful counterterrorism strike, is something that President Trump will talk about. He will praise the bravery of the soldiers. He will talk about how it was carried out with great expertise and precision and coordination. And it seems that it was. But who will govern the country? How will it run? Will the people accept it? all very open questions. And I wanted to go back for a second to ask Keir a question, if I may, because we heard that statement. I heard it live on this conversation from the Kremlin. And one thing that struck me is it didn't seem to be that strong. I've heard the Kremlin, when it wants to condemn them, use much stronger terms. This described it as it's condemnable. It wasn't very, I don't want to say emphatic. Do you think in a way that this kind of operation, a regime change operation, which is what President Trump just did, could even help Vladimir Putin, could help him justify the war in Ukraine, and it could help him reestablish what used to be called the sphere of influence world during the Cold War, where the United States controls its neighborhood and Russia dominated its pace. Could this actually help Putin? Is he secretly?
Hey, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Thank you for liking the page, and thank you for the cash apps. I appreciate you guys for being here. Actually, I have another, I'm going to start another show at 9 o'clock. It's 7:53. So I'm going to take a break, change, go get some water. I'm going to run to the store. I'm supposed to have another co-host if they're going to, I'm not sure if they're going to be on or not because he hasn't called me yet, but he was going to come back on. Sorry, that's my dog. He's asleep. He's like waking up. But I'll be back in about an hour. So please, if you can, subscribe to the channel, like the page. It's fluctuating between 200 and 300 people right now. Don't forget, I'm on 8 different platforms. So I appreciate everybody for being here and tuning in. I'm glad I could bring you this news in the morning from my own perspective, a right-wing, conservative, patriotic perspective. And I'm glad that I'm glad this was a successful mission. We took our time. We didn't do it sloppy. We did it the right way. We didn't rush. So all's well that ends well, I guess, right? So like and subscribe, share the video. And remember, America first, America only.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.